Hello, good evening, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of entertaining and epic racing action in the Sim Racing Collective with oNiD Community Racing GR Cup for 2026. And you're here today, of course, to see the story continue with round number 4 of 6 in our championship campaign. We make our way into the second half of the season, but where exactly have we made our way to, I hear you ask? We have made our way to the USA, and for none other than what is the New York State circuit of Watkins Glen International. This circuit arguably needs no introduction. It is widely considered to be the revival place of road racing in the USA post the Second World War, and at its core is a fast-flowing sequence of corners and extended straights which, when joined together, makes the racing absolutely relentless and absolutely merciless. For with our drivers, they've got to be absolutely on their top form. They need to race as a pack, they need to be smart with the draft, but they've also got to be clinical in the corners if they want to try and take the lead and break away. And the game will be today all about temporary alliances, where drivers will work together to try and break away from the roles behind. Those alliances will be temporary and they'll break down, and it will be all-out warfare on the circuit as the drivers get their elbows out to be able to try and beat each other to the post and to get to that finish line as the number one driver, whether it be in Pro or Am. But who exactly is going to find a way to deliver strategy on the road and have indeed a key bit of a diplomacy when it comes to batting action? Well, that's what we're here to find out today as we catch all the racing action live from circuit side. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast as you tune in tonight to the one and only place you can catch all the racing action from this series, indeed any of the Sim Racing Collective series, brought in collaboration with the oNiD Community Racing Group, and is of course on our official YouTube channel, the Sim Racing Collective. Go to youtube.com and search for TSRC or the Sim Racing Collective, and you can be tuning in there. And why not subscribe today? And that way you can stay up to date with all the latest action from our series as broadcast on a weekly basis, including currently, of course, the GR Cup, which you're tuning in today, and also the Tim Tot Challenge, which you'll see on Wednesdays as the story of that season continues. In the content booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action over the course of the season. And in terms of our schedule for today, times in UK time, so that's British Summer Time, BST, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC +1, what we can see our schedule is thus. In approximately 3 minutes time, we make our way out into circuit for our qualifying session. 10 minutes in duration, after which we then make our way to the grid for our first of our 2 races. It will, of course, be the 15-minute sprint race, after which we take a brief breather to go into our 3-minute warm-up, and then we return to the racing action at just before 25 to 9, and we get underway with our 30-minute feature race. It's double the length, it's double the distance in theory, and we can expect double, if not quadruple the action, and we look forward to seeing that. But to get there, we need to recap the story, of course, from our previous round, so let's bring it up to speed with the story so far after 3 rounds of racing, and what exactly we can perhaps expect coming into this round. And so we take a look at our calendar firstly, and here we are today, round number 4. It is none other than Monday the 27th of April, and it's crazy to think that we're already towards the end of the 4th month of 2026. Time is flying us by. But the last round flew us by as well when we made our way all the way to Australia for the Adelaide Street Circuit, and what a round of racing action we had there, in the fact that many were nervous up and down the grid, and indeed in the admin team as well. Everyone was nervous. Race at a street circuit as tight as Adelaide, surely there's going to be a big incident. Surely it's going to go a little bit wrong. And street circuits normally do see that happen, but alas, no. We saw some of the best racing we've seen so far this season, if not all the way through 2026 in the Sim Racing Collective series. We saw plenty of brilliant battling action. Indeed, in both races, it was all about fast and furious, elbows out battling from start to finish. Qualifying, of course, predated that, and what we got to see in qualifying was a duel for pole position between Cole Morby and David Haynes, which Morby was able to win by a 10th, and the rest of the field was headed by Kieran O'Reilly with his best qualifying performance of the season, only 2 tenths further behind. But when we went into our sprint race, where it was all about what was some very close fighting at the front, although Kieran Sharp, sadly having a moment coming out to turn number 8 on the open lap, was seen to relegate himself to the very back of the field with major damage. But in the end, there was close fights across both classes, and overall in Pro, it was victory for David Haynes, who started second after missing out on that pole position to Kyle Morby, but he had a brilliant start to the race, took the lead, and then fended off the chasing pack for the entirety of the race, despite that pressure being constant from the likes of Jamie Nuttall, Kieran O'Reilly, and Cole Morby, and then he took his first win of the season. As Ram was none other than Finley Secker, who was able to take pole position in qualifying by almost 3 tenths over James Stone Bradford, and then we're both having a season best qualifying performance. Well, it would be Secker who would go on to take one of his season best result in a win that saw him able to just break away from the rest of the Anfield and stay in amongst the leading Pro drivers. Then in the feature race, it was like the sprint race, but double the time duration. We saw another highly exciting and clean race, although there was a big incident going through turn number 8 on lap number 5, which claimed Jamie Nuttall, but it also claimed none other than the man who took the Am victory in race number 1 of Finley Secker, and therefore it meant a new winner would be seen in Am. But before that, we saw the win go to Cole Morby for Pro and Overall, who started in 7th place and fought his way through the field and then made a major break as absolute chaos played out behind, where in the end it was fight aplenty for 2nd place. Meanwhile for Thomas Lowe, it was his first win of the season in a feature race, and he absolutely delivered, having started in 13th for everyone, 2nd in class. And when it all fell apart for Seca in the early stage of the race, well, Lowe was there to make sure that nobody could catch up, and he made sure he took that win for his own. But who exactly are going to be the winners today? Well, we're about to find out, ladies and gents. It's about to head into qualifying, but just before we come to qualifying, let's tell you a little bit about our circuit. We're of course racing at the Watkins Glen International venue, but of course it is the Cup layout we're racing at. So the NASCAR Cup, if you will. You'll see the track limits be quite loosely defined here today, and our drivers will be taken on this circuit located in the village of Sticks in the Schuler County of the US state of New York. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just the brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. 7 corners at its core, and indeed, we don't count the inner loop bus stop chicane that you'll see there on the exit of turn 4 in the run-up towards outer loop at turn number 5, but that is also included here, and therefore offer drives it's fast, sweeping bends, long straights, and it's all about carrying as much momentum as possible, but being ready to battle on the brakes in towards the chicane. Indeed, towards the late stage, you'll see every one of these corners open up opportunities for 2 or if not 3 wide. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator on which we host this series, but also, of course, their brilliant track maps which help bring the circuits to life. A quick reminder of the rules before we go racing. This is a fixed setup series with car fuel loads restricted to 30 litres. Qualifying wise, a closed qualifying format shall be used where our drivers all take to an isolated instance of the circuit. They do not have the risk of tripping up over each other. And each driver has 3 flying laps available plus their initial warm-up or out lap. The race wise, we shall see they shall commence via a rolling start as is the tradition of this series. Indeed, any racing involving the GR86 Cup car in real world. And the grid for the sprint race shall be set based on qualifying. The grid for the feature race, we set it based on the results of the sprint race, but we invert the top 10 finishing positions. So the winner of the sprint starts in 10th place of the feature, and the 10th place finisher starts on pole for the purposes of the feature, and those in between will be inverted, and those who finished outside the top 10, you guessed it right, 11th and down, that's exactly where they'll start for the feature race based on where they finished in the sprint. Each driver has 1 fast pair available should they need it in a given race, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 70 more instant points, and all race stewarding shall be conducted post-round. But with haste, let's make our way back to the circuit side and quickly bring up speed with the standings after 3 rounds, and this is where a drop score included, of course. And as we see in Pro, firstly, it's Cole Morby who leads the way on 95 points, and right now it's starting just to extract a little bit of gap at the very top. The Privateer definitely has been one of the strongest drivers over the course of the season so far, and he's starting to take control. Jamie Nuttall for Cracked Racing. What could it have been if it were not for that instant in race number 2 at Adelaide? Could he be leading right now or much closer? Well, he'll be looking for a redemption drive today. He's 4 points ahead of Craig Twardock, who sits in 3rd after his brilliant battling in the 2nd race, and indeed right now he does seem to be the man who, after difficulties in qualifying and in the sprint race, he got it all together in the feature at Adelaide. He's on 83, only a point ahead of Tom Davidson, and the TSRC trio there being completed by Kieran Sharp, who it all went wrong for in the sprint race, but he put on a brilliant pair of recovery drives to make his way right back into the thick of the fighting in the 2nd race of the day at Adelaide. Meanwhile, we do see there in 6th place, that's David Haynes. And the Pro 2's definitely got a lot of pace, but hasn't had the luck on his side so far. But he's just ahead of Janos Svenson with Kieran O'Reilly, Bart Raven, and Gwilym Hamlin completing the Pro top 10. And it's Martin Blankenstein in 11th place, best of the rest, ahead of Sarah Dove. And indeed, watch out for Sarah. She'll be looking to battle even harder today, ahead of FC Lamb by 5 points. And it's Bobby Moss, the last driver with points to his name, and yet scoring any points, Andrew Pike and Finley Lyons. We then do come to what is the AM class by comparison. And here we see in the AMs, it is Stefan Hutter who leads, despite the fact he was not on the grid last time out at Adelaide, so he's committed that as a drop score. But the German driver right now 3 points ahead of Finley Secker, and the drive around a racing driver showing that he's got a lot of pace to be untapped, and right now he's trying to tap into that potential. Thomas Lowe chasing furiously there, only a 3rd point behind, but the best part of 13 points ahead of Adam Gillenboy, and the Swede really leading the rest of the field, because we do see there Gareth Ronda in 5th place for Cracked Racing ahead of the Dogs' Harry Mason, and it's Yuri Shura, Tony Preston, Matt Smith, and James Stone Bradford completing that top 10. Mark Payes is 11th ahead of Lenny Hansen, with Danny Morris in 13th place. They're 3 points behind, but 3 ahead of Aidan Howard, who we do hope to see back on the grid today for oNiD Community Racing after he missed last round due to not feeling 100% well. And well, if he's not feeling too well, and Aidan, if you're tuning in right now, I hope you do feel better soon, because we definitely miss seeing you on the grid, although I'm just double checking to see our entry list. In fact, he is back. We can confirm he's back, so brilliant there. We do have our number 16 driver back on the grid, our number 15 driver in fact, and we look forward to seeing what he can do now that he's back to normal health, hopefully. Bjorn Egil Calcett sits in 15th ahead of David Barnes, and then we do have on 0 points Nuno Mello, Luke Smith, and Brad Bunn. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying is underway. Let's take a look at how they're all getting on and see who exactly is going to be taking that pole position. As right now we do bring up the time town left-hand side. First laps have been put on the board already, and I do believe Jamie Nuttall's going on to already his 3rd and flying lap. Needs to make his way on round, and this could be a quick qualifying session for many a driver, albeit we can see their Nuttall going as wide as humanly possible through 90 right at turn number 1, and understandably here running as close as possible to that outside wall. He is not holding back at all. As he heads onwards, a few more drivers also building up some pace. Kieran O'Reilly looking quite quick, as you can see him there in the number 74. He's currently in 5th place there and making his way through turns 6 and 7, and from left into right. And what do we mean by very loosely defined track limits? Well, what you'll find here, because we are running the NASCAR Next Gen Cup layout for what will be the Watkins Glen International Circuit, our drivers are allowed to run very wide out of these corners, practically up to the walls, but it doesn't always help you out, and there will be an expectation if you do run wide at a corner, when you rejoin the race circuit, you will give way to those who are on the circuit already, not the other way round, because of the fact that in the end of the day, you've chosen to run out wide, and you can do it to carry a bit more momentum, but of course, you do put yourself at risk of running very close to a wall. And in qualifying, if you tap one of those walls, that will invalidate the lap by default, so therefore, you've got to be smart. You've got to get within a millimetre of those walls to carry all the speed you can. But as we do look right now to FC Lamb, back towards the back end of the top 10. In fact, in 10th place right now. He's always been around about there so far this season, and that's not to be unfair to him. He's proven to be a very capable driver. He's been in some great battles with the likes of Bobby Moss, Andrew Pike, and also, well, perhaps not in this season, because Andrew Pike gets any points on the board, but in other series he has, but more perhaps so Sarah Dove. Well, right now we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do, Lamb, as he makes his way towards that time in line. But speaking of drivers making their way onto another lap, well, Tom Davidson's about to go onto his final flying lap, so let's jump on board, ladies and gentlemen, as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Watkins Glen International Cup course. So onto the brakes he goes, in towards turn on, braking at the 100-yard board, getting all the weight pitched onto nose, carries the speed, and in fact, completely backs off immediately there, so decides not to go any further. We thought he might have been going on, but he's decided, nope, he doesn't want to go any further, decides to park the car up and tow instead. So therefore, we're going to need to look to other drivers, and Sarah Dove, well, she's making her way up the hill right now, so let's jump on board with her. And she makes way through the S's, turns 2, 3, and 4, and as she does so, well, the privateer right now make the way all the way up towards the inner loop chicane, which we sometimes refer to as the bus stop chicane, but we'll try and refer to it right. And as she comes on through here, flat out all the way through the S's sequence, now looking to her left-hand side. For a turning point, will she dab the brakes? No, she just lifts and coasts in, dropping down from 5th to 4th gear, and join the dots together in a lovely smooth line. That's what you want. And now into outer loop bend here, and this is all about throttle control. No need to brake. The weight will be pitched forward gradually through the corner. You've just got to get it right. As she comes on out, normally you go off to the left there to make the full boot course, but we're not running that. And Dove right now keeping very happily within track limits as she makes way up towards turn number 6. You can see another long run here, heading towards 200 kilometers an hour. She makes her way onto the brakes, and he will need to dab the brakes about 150 yards from apex to get the weight forward and get some speed off the car. Now over to the left to open up turn number 7, and here it's another braking zone, braking about 100 yards from corner entry, down to 4th gear, running as close as possible to exit wall to carry the speed. And for Dove, what's it going to be for a final flying lap around the circuit? And the answer is going to be, she was 10th, and she's going to stay 10th by looks of things, does not find any more time out there. And meanwhile, who exactly is looking the quickest in AM? Well, at the moment, it's looking to be, by looks of things, Thomas Lowe, who's currently sat in 14th place overall. But it is crazy to think we've got all, if not most of our pros, all together at the very top of the time tower, and then we've got all of our AMs following. There's only one outlier in this situation, and that is Craig Twardock, as he makes his way down towards turn number 1, the man we spoke to last time out as our final interview at Adelaide, who had a lot of fun out there. And we're right now the Sim Racing Collective esports driver in collaboration with Energy Race, not with Energy Race, I should say with Monster Energy on the car, indeed the energy drink sponsoring that car. Will make his way out through turns 2, 3, and 4, and right now definitely he's got a lot of work to do here, the pro driver, because he's yet to get a lap on the board, and he's running out of time. 2 minutes left on the clock. He'll get this one lap, and that will be it. He won't get any more laps after this, because we have no overtime in qualifying. Once the 10 minutes goes to 0, that's it. Your job is done, and therefore you've got to try and do it all again in the race. So he's going to have a little bit of pressure on him here with regards to being able to stitch this all together as best as he can. But as he comes all the way downhill through the corners, well, right now we can see the Sim Racing Collective esports trying the 200, definitely keeping these nice smooth lines. Is anybody else improving out there at the moment? Well, Tony Preston's gone on to his final lap. I think he's just going to squeeze this in. So Preston literally leaving it with about 2 to 3 seconds to spare. And we'll have to see what he's going to be able to stitch together here as he runs very close to that wall. And we jump on board here as he makes his way up through the S's sequence. Right now looking quite composed. He makes his way up through the corners. And we're now getting on to the back stretch here. Well, the main stretch we should really say, depending on your preference. Carries all that speed right now. Well, understandably, he is a little bit off of what would be the pole sitter in AM at the moment of low to the tune of a grand total of approximately 0.7 of a second, but comes in towards the inner loop chicane. And you can see they're just trying to carry that speed as much as possible, but a little bit conservative as he comes on through, not wanting to push the envelope too hard. And I think the 333 driver realising he goes a bit deep there. That's not the line you want coming for outer loop. You want a tighter line so you can get on the throttle nice and early on exit. So Preston here making a bit of a ham sandwich of this lap. And well, with that, that's going to cost him a lot of time. The one lap that Craig Toll has been able to put together, as he's crossed the line only about 4 or 5 seconds ago, it's put him 10th in the number 200, but to be fair, I don't think he's going to be too worried about that, because qualifying around here is not going to be as important as it will be in terms of doing things in the race. But Preston now makes his way through the right-hander, as he does, going towards that timing line. What's it going to be here for Preston? Is he going to be able to move up the order, or is he going to stay where he is? He was 24th, 10th in the AM class, and that is where he's going to stay by looks of things. That's a 23.01, so no improvement there for Preston, and qualifying is complete, ladies and gentlemen, as we do look to the scenic view. And well, Jamie Nuttall takes over on pro pole, with Kyle Morby joining on the front row, separated by 10th, and then it will be to 15th place in the end for Thomas Lowe, who takes the AM pole position, joined on the 8th row by fellow AM driver of Calcett. But as they all now make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll all line up for our first race of the day. 15 minutes is about to get underway in terms of racing. It's a sprint race, and this is how they're going to line up. It is Jamie Nuttall who takes pole position for Cracked Racing, starting off on a good note. Well, 1 minute 21.071. He's joined on the front row by Kyle Morby, who was practically a 10th off there, the privateer. But watch out for Kyle Morby. He'll be hoping that he can really charge forward. We do see behind it's going to be Kieran O'Reilly there, third on the grid for MSA Racing. He's really putting together a good run at the moment, O'Reilly, since Adelaide. And right now, I do wonder how far the British driver can go. Can he potentially be a late charger in the championship? Tom Davidson sits in full place there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. He's always reliable being towards the very front, but he's got a bit of pressure from behind, because it would be Martin Blankensteiner for Cracked Racing and Jonas Wenzel, the privateer, who make up row 3. Row number 4, it's Andrew Pike, as he makes his debut in this series as of this round. So he's finally been able to make it onto the grid for a round. Good to see him there, starting 7th, and he's been able to pip his teammate and close rival Kieran Sharp. Well, I'll tell you one thing, I was catching up with Kieran Sharp in the build-up to this one, and he did say to expect Andrew Pike to either be what would be boom or bust with regards to how quick he'll be, and right now he's definitely booming compared to Sharp, so therefore I think the two of them are going to go fighting at the start of this one. David Haynes starts in 9th there, the privateer to the Sim Racing Collective Esports is Craig Twardock, and we do see 11th going to Sarah Dove, the privateer ahead of FC Lamb for GRS. Outside your top 12, we do see starting in 14th place, it's going to be Bart Rain for Cracked Race, and the Dutchman just ahead of Bobby Moss in the end, and well, the difference between the two of them literally being thousands. But still, the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver will know it's not about how you start the race, it's about how you end it. And Thomas Lowe starting on AM pole position in 15th place there, the privateer. Well done to him. That's his maiden pole position in qualifying in class, head of Bjorn Egil Calcett, who starts 2nd in class, his best qualifying performance of the season so far. Then for the Norwegian, it's going to be Finley Secker for Driver Lounge Racing, ahead of Wheelchair Racing's Lanny Hansen. And then we will have Yuri Schurer ahead of Jamestown Radford, the oNiD Community Racing driver, putting together another solid qualifying performance, but being matched there almost by the Dogs is Jamestown Radford. Then we have Harry Mason starting 21st for the Dogs, ahead of Matt Smith for Cracked Racing. And then on your 12th row, return to the grid after sickness, Aidan Howe, good to see him back for oNiD Community Racing, ahead of Tony Preston. And off of your 12th row, on your 13th row to complete your 26 car starting order, it is going to be Danny Morris, the privateer, and Mark Pears, the South African driver, no lap set, and now he's got all the work to do from the back of the field. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the field is set. They're almost all itching to go, and we are absolutely itching to see them go. But of course, first up, we do have the question of a partial formation lap. It's not a full one, because otherwise we would be here to the end of time, but we do have a short formation lap, and with that it does mean that all drivers will be absolutely itching to go charging away. And well, we'll have to wait and see who exactly is going to get the best run in towards turn 1. Now, it should be clear, the reason why Mark Pears is all the way at the back of the grid was because he did pick up a qualifying ban for reaching 6 licence points on his racing licence at Adelaide last time out, so therefore the South African driver has been moved to the sin bin with regards to the fact he was not allowed to compete in qualifying. So expect him to come all the way from the back of the field. Here he is in the all-black machine, and well, we jump on board briefly there, but he won't be going anywhere at the moment at least, because we are just waiting for the 4-minute countdown procedure to be completed with the gridding process, and they will all be good to go. But I do believe that has now been completed, and the field is about to make its way away. But for Mark, and indeed everybody, they'll all be excited to get away for this one, and we just wait now to see the field pull away behind the pace car. And it starts to pull away, does the Porsche Cayman pace car, and there is Jamie Nuttall who starts to lead the field away. Now, how important is qualifying position for this? Well, you want to start towards the front because you want to be part of that lead pack when this whole field starts to splinter out. However, beyond that, you've now got to think about one thing only. Work with the drivers around you, make a break from those further behind, and then try to make a break from those you worked with. Form an alliance and then break it. And who exactly is going to go bowling successfully here at Watkins Glen, and who is going to be bowled out? Well, it's time to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as it's over to Jamie Nuttall to take us to the green. And it's lights out, away we go as 15 minutes of racing begins to tick away. Jamie Nuttall there right in the middle of the road, but you see Cole Morby coming across as well. They're all fanning out behind. It's going to be about 6 wide in the mid-pack there, as that's David Haynes diving to the inside. Haynes there trying to squeeze his way in. Does he get any places there? Not quite, but he does hold a very tight line on corner exit. That will help him in the run up into the S's. It guarantees his track position. Now they're all compressed back together here as they make the way up the hill. We do look to the blimp camera, and where you can see that Cole Morby has taken over at the front, with Jamie Nuttall and Tom Davidson closing in behind. But meanwhile, further back in the AM class, Bjorn Egil Calcett has moved ahead. Oh, that's the car going round. Contact there, Calcett being turned, and I believe that was in contact with the car. Was that Bart Raven he came into contact with? I think it was. So they've been able to avoid causing a domino effect, but very close there, and thankfully not too much drama. I think Bart Raven and Calcett coming into contact. We'll get a replay of that when we can. But as the field makes his way for the in-loop chicane, David Haynes all over the back of Martin Blankensteiner. Well, in the end, Haynes had a brilliant start to this race, having started in 9th place overall, and what was in the end a bit further down. He's made that progress very quickly, and right now number 6 driver here literally tapping on the door of the top 5 already. How far can he go? But as he tries to go forward, well, meanwhile we've got some fighting further back, but at the front of the field there, Tom Davidson battling with Cole Morby. Now Morby here outside to inside. He's going to simply just yield the ground for now, although Davidson does let him rejoin there and does not try to force it on. But look at the gap that Jamie Nuttall's going to build as a result of this, and here comes Kieran O'Reilly. He goes to the inside. He's going to make it 3 wide down towards turn number 1. Now will O'Reilly get the run here? Well, it's going to be hedge your bets, place your bets behind your horse, and we'll come in towards that braking zone right now. O'Reilly on the inside, but remember they can run out wide at turn 1, so therefore being on the inside doesn't always guarantee you're going to make this move stick. Everyone right now fight each other hard as they come down towards turn number 2, or up towards, we should say. It's an uphill rise, but it is going to be Davidson and Morby side by side as of right now. In fact, it's not Davidson and Morby, that's Morby and O'Reilly there side by side. Let me correct myself. And your leader right now, Jamie Nuttall, almost allowed to break away there, but in the end Davidson's broken clear of Morby and O'Reilly, and he's been able now to latch onto the draft. But as they make the way down that start-finish straight, a run and up towards what will be the first real braking zone or lift-off zone here of what will be the inner loop chicane. Oh, that goes very sideways of Craig Twardock, and Twardock is around. Couldn't quite see him on the camera. There he is. He's just about avoided the barrier. Oh my goodness! And that's Bart Raven coming sliding in stage right, and well, the crack traces right into the barrier. And well, that's not good for Raven. That's not good at all there. And well, I don't think he's joining Craig Twardock in solidarity, I can tell you that. But as there's drama there with Bart Raven at the heart of some lap 1 drama, when now he's found himself in some lap 2 drama. The drama seems to follow him wherever he goes here in the US of A. But meanwhile, right now, you can definitely see the top 2 trying to break away at the very front. Meanwhile, further back, we now got a new AM leader. James Stone Bradford moves ahead. As meanwhile, I believe we do have a slowdown penalty being given to Thomas Lowe for track limits. So that would be at the chicane. He's cut the course, and he's got to get the time back, as the iRacing joining system would say. And well, understandably, that's going to be a bit of a shame, because that's going to cause a bit of a split in the field as well. As we do see Finley Secker moving ahead of Tony Preston. Now, Preston's had a good start to this race. He's moved up a bit of ground. He's already up from 24th in towards 17th place here, knocking on the door of Secker as they make the way on to another lap. Brown a bit wide there, just about avoiding the barrier. And while doing so, I thought he was going to make contact with the barrier there, but that is the body language of the camera and the car not cooperating with each other. So we do see Yuri Shura towing into the pit lane. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, but it's gone very wrong there for the only community racing driver. Something's broken on the car, and well, they'll have to see if they can fix it in preparation for the rest of this race, if not the feature race. But meanwhile, here's a look from Harry Mason, the Dogs driver here, trying to definitely bark his way up the inside of what will be Mark Peza. Peza fighting with him all the way through the in-loop chicane, and then it'll be inside to outside, and Mason makes that work. And meanwhile, we can see Matt Smith and Danny Morris behind, but it's particularly Matt Smith here at the very back of this group. Danny Morris is 9 seconds behind this group, so he won't be on camera. And right now, the British driver here of Smith, just seeing if he can stay in touch for now for Cracked Racing. But meanwhile, with the back up the order, and David Haynes on the inside there of Andrew Pike. And Pike being passed for now, but he runs a bit wide, and Pike is going to find himself in a free wide there as Haynes goes great defence on the inside in towards turn number 7. Joins at the last possible moment in that group, and here they come across the timeline again. His laps now starting to be accrued quite nicely, and behind there is Bobby Moss. You jump on board with your number 5 driver for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and well, Bobby definitely one of those drivers right now who I think is going to have to play a bit of a patience game here. This isn't the style of racing I think he normally prefers. He is one more of those drivers that we've seen earlier in the season who normally prefers instead to really have what is the isolated one-on-one battle with another driver, and well, pack racing here is a very different style of racing. You can imagine that this is really GR86's meets NASCAR in a way, and we're coming all the way onto the stretch up towards the in-loop chicane. You've got to pick the right driver to back in these situations, as Davidson's passed Nuttall for the lead. We'll come to that shortly, but right now we're looking at this quartet. It's going to be 2 by 2 here as they make the way on in, and right now Sarah Dove sits on the back of it in the Minolta car, and well, through they go. But you can see Andrew Pye just being sent a little bit out wide, but he is allowed to hold his line there as Bobby Moss in the Anya machine for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. That being a reference to the anime of Spy Family, if you didn't know. And well, as they make the way out, that's why he's got the characterization on the car there. Perhaps he loves the character. He'll make his way down towards turn number 6 at the moment, and Moss right now trying to do everything right. But meanwhile, at the very front of the field, there is a fight as our camera has to catch up with all the intense action. And Jamie Nuttall and Tom Davidson side by side. That's brought Kyle Morby and Kieran O'Reilly into the mix as they come out of the final corner. Now for Jamie Nuttall at this point, this is one of those challenges. You've got to really dig deep as a driver here. Do you always want to be the leader? Well, some would say yes, you do, until, of course, that final lap. That's when you don't really want to be the leader initially on that final lap. You want to be the number 2 driver until the very end lap you can, because being the leader comes with the fallback, or the caveat, if you will, that you don't have a draft to work with, that you are trying to create the pace and you're knocking a hole in the air in front, and everyone else is trying to follow you through the hole in the air that you punched. So as they make the way all the way through the S's right now, that's where Davidson, Morby and O'Reilly are literally riding his rear bumper. They're all bump drafting each other at the moment, which you can do quite confidently in these cars, so long as it's very gentle steering inputs, but typically only on the straights, as they get ready to come behind Danny Morris just in front of them. And the reason they're bump drafting is because they want to break away from the next pack that is led by Janos Wenzel, who you can see here right now, the privateer. But as they all come into the outer loop corner at turn number 5, well, the problem is that now Danny Morris has got to step aside there, and in fact Danny Morris gets himself completely out of stage picture, and I believe designed to back off there. There you can see just completely lift off the rear of the picture, and hopefully we see him carry on. And hopefully that's not a tow to the pits there in case there's an issue with the car, but I suspect he's just respecting the blue flags, given the fact he will see a whole wave of them being waved in there, because he's got the whole set of lead packs coming on through. It's very difficult to stomach, to be fair, but well done to him. He's done a brilliant job in stepping aside, and well, some would say he didn't need to do that. He could have just fallen into the pack, but something tells me he did not want to become a bit of a speed bump for the drivers. I'm not saying that he is a problem or anything like a mobile chicane, but at the end of the day, as soon as you fall into one of these packs, you've then got to try and work your way down it as a driver who's being lapped. It's not easy. But meanwhile, we do see Tom Davidson dives up the inside there of Jamie Nuttall's. We do say hello to Shroom1, who's cheering on Tom D, which I do presume is Tom Davidson. I don't think we've got any other Tom Ds on this grid. And as they make the way up the hill, well, there's Kyle Morby looking for a move in the purple machine. And right now, the purple prince of racing, that's definitely going on the attack as he makes his way up through the S's here. But he's trying to figure a way through at the moment. And we see Kieran O'Reilly just behind there. You can see Morby's deciding to invest himself into Davidson. Meanwhile, Kieran O'Reilly is pushing Jamie Nuttall along, and well, 2 by 2 they go into the inner loop, and once they make the way out in the end, there's no change, but it brings Wenzel and Blankensteiner into the mix, and that's where Janos Wenzel immediately there in the white and red GR car, coming all the way up the inside of O'Reilly, and O'Reilly had an absolutely miserable run through the chicane. In fact, he cut track limits. He's trying to burn a slowdown penalty. That's why he's been sent backwards, and Blankensteiner only realised it too late, so he's actually been held up a little bit there, and that's going to cause the top 6 to fracture into 2 trios. Now, will that enable a breakaway? We'll have to see. As we go further back, we do see Bobby Moss there. Still chasing after Kieran Sharp with David Haynes and Andrew Pye, Sarah Dove and FC Lamb all queuing up. We've been speaking a lot about what is your pro drives, what's going on in AM. And well, the good news is it's a very similar situation in AM, albeit we've got a car coming into the pits there, and that is going to be Finley Secker coming in. Is he actually going into the pit lane? The answer is yes, Sadie is into the pit. He's picked up, I believe, a black flag, and I'm not quite sure why. I'll tell you that it's all gone a bit wrong for Secker, while the big championship contenders, as James Stone Bradford right now leads in AM class ahead of Lenny Hansen and Thomas Lowe. Now remember, of course, Lowe was your winner in the feature race at Adelaide, but a very different race there. And he did have much company at Adelaide in the second race today compared to the first, but here he's definitely got plenty of company to work with. And jump on board with the man who's got the popcorn seat view for the front of what is the stage, the AM Battle. Going on to the inside there, and a look at the overspeed he picks up as he makes his way onwards. And in terms of the speed he's picking up, that is going to be already 197 kilometers an hour as he comes out the toe. He's not getting the side draft anymore and wants to be too wide into the in-loop chicane. But he backs off there and going back around the outside into the inside is Lenny Hansen. So Lowe being a little bit conservative there. Now, is that a weakness that he's showing? Is he not confident on that inside line too wide? If so, if Hansen and Stone Radford pick up that, they will then be able to use that. They can be a lot more aggressive. They can pin low to the inside into the chicane. And remember, you have got that absolutely uncompromising Armco barrier on the inside. You hit that, you are being speared straight off the road at the chicane. Nobody wants to hit it, but when they do, it ends up in pieces. But meanwhile, well, it's anything but pieces or peaceful here as we do see Jamie Nuttall and Tom Davidson fight. But look what they've done. They've brought the entirety of the lead pro field together. Your top 12 is separated by only 2 seconds. They're all in that single camera shot. They've all come back together. So the fighting's erupted here, and there is a reason why you want to trigger off all the fighting. Oh, goodness me, Jamie Nuttall being elbowed out there. When he rejoins, he comes back on aggressively, and they're all getting very feisty. Keep it clean, guys, for the love of the Lord, please, because we don't want to see all these GR86s in pieces. It's absolutely brilliant racing so far. As they make the way up towards turns 2, 3, and 4, they've all got the respect for each other. I don't think we're going to see a big incident. They're heading onwards. Now that I've said it, that's the commentator's curse, ladies and gentlemen. Fingers crossed, touch wood, and cross my toes. I haven't just put the commentator's curse on this whole field as they all decide to pick 2 lines here right now. It's Davidson and Wenzel who lead at the front, but Tom Davidson at the end goes around the outside to inside. Wenzel backs out there, and he gets absorbed back into the pack. It's going to be Martin Blanken's trying to cut in track limits, and when they're running out a bit of a road and a bit too much momentum through the corner. But as they come down, well, meanwhile, we do take a quick look back to what happened right at the start of the race, and in particular what went wrong for Bjorn Egil Kalset. Now, this was as he was making his way up the hill through the S's, and a bit of contact there. I believe that's Bart Raven he came into contact with. Raven almost went so as well, and well done to Kalset for not letting that car initially roll back into the road. Everyone did very well to take evasive action. But unfortunately, went a bit wrong for Aidan Howard on the open lap. This was through the inner loop chicane. Carried a lot of speed, was all over the back of the car, and lost the rear in turn. Number 15 driver there just oversliding the car, and unfortunately, the rear axle so weightless at that point in terms of all the weight pitched forward. It all went to the barrier. We also did have this for Craig Tardle on lap number 2, and this was coming in towards the chicane. Now, what exactly happened to him here as he made his way into the braking zone? Or the lift off zone, really? And the answer was contact with Blankensteiner, and that sent the car round. And at that point, he hit the barrier, so he did not stop before the barrier. He went into it, and then Bart Raven just emerged. And how did Bart Raven get there, I hear you ask? Well, this is what happened to the Cracked Racing driver from the Netherlands. He was tapped on the rear. That was Secker hitting on the rear bumper, I believe. And the Cracked Racing driver had no control and into the barrier. So that explains, I think, why Secker also came to the pit lane. And we had this for Yuri Schurer. And this was Schurer coming through turn number 1. And as he did so, just parked up there. Perhaps an issue with the car, we're not quite sure. But with that, what we're sure of is we're coming back to your live racing. And as we do, well, we do have some more yellow flags for our leaders, more slowdown penalties being applied here. We should point out when we say yellow flags, you won't see those on your tyres, and they won't be circuit side. They are a bit of information we have to say a driver's got a slowdown penalty. So we do have a slowdown for Nuttall, with the same for Morby, but otherwise this will keep this whole field together. They will just shuffle the pieces around, if you will. They're shuffling the cards on the table. 3 minutes left to go, and right now this is absolutely incredible. This is as close as it's going to get all season, ladies and gentlemen. See this many drivers all together. Remember, this is the pro lead battle, and then behind you can see the rear of the picture. That is your top 3 in AM of Radford. That's Stone Radford ahead of Hansen and Lowe. But right now, here we go then on to what will be 3 laps to the finish, if my maths is correct. And right now, Janos Wenzel are right on a very tight line there. Actually, he doesn't want to get involved in any of the fighting at all. He just wants to play it passive and peaceful. I think that's a smart move there right now. He'll lose a place perhaps, but he'll stay safe on the inside and guarantee his line heading up the hill. Now, Sarah Dove, well, she's, of course, potentially for her best result of the season. Let's wait and see what she can do right now. Can she get into the top 5? It'd be absolutely incredible if she picked up a top 5. She's been chasing what is some solid top 10 results all season in the no delivery. But can she use the madness right now to perhaps even do a lot more than that? As further back, we do see there James Stone Radford being pushed along by Lenny Hansen. And the wheelchair racing driver here trying to get himself into second right now. That's where you want to be on the final lap. You want to be car number 2, which you've got the draft of the car in front, and the guy behind you gets the double draft, but it's nowhere near as strong in these GR86 cars. It's literally the draft of a single car. It's going to give you the biggest speed gain, and a second draft gives you a little bit more, but it's so marginal in. You're all gaining the tar for each other apart from the leader. It doesn't really help you out. But meanwhile, as Davidson here comes through turn 6 and 7, he's going to go on to the what will be the penultimate lap. We will have to wait and see if we get a white flag as Martin Blankenstein runs a little bit wide in the background. But He seems to keep it together, but Derrison heads down the start-finish line straight. Do we see a white flag waiting for him? I don't think we get a camera angle of the flag, ladies and gentlemen. So therefore, we may be on the final lap. We may not. We'll have to see. But Kieran O'Reilly right now side by side here, going for the move on the inside immediately. So I think he feels we are on the final lap. O'Reilly's going for it. He's yet to take a win this season. He's hoping he can make some magic happen here today. Well, the MSA Racing Drive heading up the rise right now, but Davison, of course, will now have the draft off the back of him. We do have a 1.3 second split, meanwhile, between Sharp and Moss, so that's opened up a little bit. Bobby Moss not having the best of runs on the previous lap, so right now the top 5 are a bit of well to their own, and meanwhile the rest of that top 12 is now starting to fight over 5th place. But here we go, in towards the in-loop chicane. The battle for the AM lead in the background as well, side by side between Hansen and Stone Radford. Hansen trying to take the lead here, as meanwhile we continue to focus on what's in the foreground, but then we come to the background, and that's a new AM leader. Hansen ahead of Stone Radford with Lowe following as they come down. Oh, there's contact to the rear, and Hansen turned. Oh, it's into the barrier. It's a tap from the rear by Stone Radford to Hansen, and in the end Lowe takes race action, but Stone Radford carries on. But meanwhile, let's come back to the front. There's only 15 seconds left to go on that clock. I don't think we're going to see an extra lap. I think we'll go 11 and it's done. Well, here comes Tom Derrison then making his way through turn 6 to 7. He's got clear of Nuttall for now. 6 tenths is the gap. And will we go another lap? No, we won. There's the checker flag waving. And well, for Tom Derrison, it's going to be victory in the first race of the day. He's broken away right at the very end. He got back ahead of Kieran O'Reilly and Jamie Nuttall, and he takes the win with Nuttall in second, O'Reilly in third. Kieran Sharp and Janos Svensson will complete your top 5. Then it'll be Bobby Moss in no man's land in 6th. Ahead of Cole Morby. Sarah Dove takes 8th place. Ahead of Andrew Pike at FC Lamb, David Haynes and Martin Blankenstein to complete your top 12, and your AM win will be a bit of a contentious one after that contact with Hansen. It will be James Stone Radford who takes 13th, ahead of Thomas Lowe, and Lenny Hansen will round off the top 3 on that AM podium. Harry Mason takes 4th place, his best performance of the season, ahead of Mark Paynes, who came from the back of the field to finish 17th but 5th in AM class, and then it will be Tony Preston just ahead of Matt Smith, Bjorn Egil Calcett, Bart Raven. And then we will see Craig Twardock in the end coming home to be one of our last drivers who finished the race. But before him, it will be this man for Cracked Racing after a difficult start. Lap 1 went wrong. Lap number 2 went even more wrong. So Twardock in the end will be finishing behind Bart Raven. The 2 pros together, 21st and 22nd, but 9 in race number 2. They may just have to work together if they want to make the progress. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen. What a race. And well, as we now get set for our second race of the day, there's going to be plenty more battle in action. But just before we come to that race, of course, we do have a 3-minute warm-up period, and that's the perfect amount of time for us to warm you up to what exactly went down in race number 1 and what we can expect in race number 2, because here are the race number 1 results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see, after an absolutely incredible 12-way battle for the overall pro win, Tom Derrison gained the upper hand in the end. How did he do it? Well, it was all through the inner loop chicane, through to the outer loop in the end, and he managed to get Jamie Nuttall and Kieran O'Reilly to step on each other's toes and was able to make the break for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Jamie Nuttall, meanwhile, took 2nd place for Cracked Racing ahead of Kieran O'Reilly for MSA Racing, and in the end, that was your top 3, but behind them by only 0.04 of a second, it was Kieran Sharp ahead of Janos Svensson who completed that top 5. From the German driver, it was a whole second there to Bobby Moss, who fell back a little bit and caused a bit of a split between the top 12, but he was safe as well by the best part there of half a second to Kyle Morby, who took 7th place. The priority was elbowed down the order as the race went on, but managed to hold off Sarah Dove, with Andrew Pike and FC Lamb completing the top 10. Behind the GRS driver, it was then the priority of David Haynes ahead of Cracked Racing's Martin Blankensteiner. Blankensteiner picking up a late slowdown on the penultimate lap, and that's what cost him the time. And then to see James Stoner or Radford there, your AM winner, 13th overall, and this means we have no AM inside that inverted top 10. They're all pros inside the inverted top 10, with SC Lamb taking his first pole position on the road this season. And well, coming back to the theme of the AMs then, 13th, they were headed by James Stone Radford, with that small tap to the back of Hansen's car coming through the in-loop chicane on the final lap, really sealing the deal, unfortunately, for him to take the win ahead of what was his rivals. And I say unfortunately, not because it's unfortunate he won, but I think he won't be too happy at the fact that he won through what might be slightly contentious circumstances. But again, what is done for the Dogs driver, and indeed, as any racing driver would, you need to now just think forward and not think backward. And behind him, looking backward, Thomas Lowe was second in the AM class, and Lenny Hansen rounded off your AM podium there for wheelchair racing. Harry Mason, the Dogs driver, was a further 5 seconds behind, but was able to steer clear of Mark Payzer right at the end. The South African driver latched onto the back of him like a bad rash and was able to round off the AM top 5. Tony Preston, Matt Smith and Bjorn Egil Calcett completed your top 20, and behind the Norwegian driver, who in the end had a very difficult start to the race, but he did well to recover. We did see taking 21st place, it was Bart Raven, the pro, just ahead of Craig Twardock, and both of them finishing off the lead lap, because behind them was a lap down driver of Finley Secker, and then we did see Yuri Shura Danny Morris and Aidan Howard complete your running order. But the good news is, ladies and gentlemen, that was race number 1. As quick as that it was done, and now we've got another one to come. Race number 2 is only the best part of 30 seconds away, and it's a 30-minute race. So plenty more of the racing action, the plat-based action you've absolutely known and loved, but of course, with the caveat, which is going to be plenty more excitement. So if you haven't gone to the bathroom, you desperately need to do it, go do it quickly, because we tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back in approximately 30 seconds time, when we go to that grid, you won't want to miss a trick, because it is time already for the 30-minute feature race here at Watkins Glen International. And so as our drivers make the way onto the grid for the second and final time today, this is how they'll all line up. Taking pole position and breaking with it his 11th place running streak, I do believe. We are just double checking that information. Indeed, his 11th place finishing streak has come to a close. It's FC Lamb who took 10th place by accident, and with it takes his first pole position. I say accident jokingly, it's a running joke with FC Lamb down in the pit lane that he only ever finishes 11th place in the sprints, but today that's all come to a stop for the GRS driver. Andrew Pike, second place in for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and well, on his debut, I think he's going to be raising an eyebrow to think that he's now right at the front of the field. And as TSRC numbers says there in the YouTube chat, what a crazy race this has been at the front in relation to the sprint race. Well, Andrew Pike's be right in the midst of the craziest now in the second race of the day. Saradar starts third then the privateer, on course potentially for a best result of the season, or best pair of results this season, as she achieved her best result in the previous race. Now, can she go one further? Can she take a top 5? Carl Morby will join her on the second row of the grid. We'll then see Bobby Moss 5th place on the grid for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of none other than Janos Wenzel, the privateer. Kieran Sharp starts 7th there for TSRC, and he will be joined on that 4th row by Kieran O'Reilly. And, well, what a race for Kieran O'Reilly. Chased his first podium in a sprint race, and he got it. Now, can he make it back-to-back podiums here today? If not, the MSA Racing driver will be under pressure from Jamie Nuttall from the outset for Cracked Racing, and race 1 winner, Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, hold on in number 42 to make it count. David Haynes starts in 11th there, the privateer, ahead of Martin Blankensteiner for Cracked Racing. Both of them missing out on the reverse grid, so therefore they've got it all to do from the back of the Pro Pack. And then we do see, starting outside the top 6 rows, your pole sitter of James Stone Radford for the Dogs. And right now, can he lead the pack here? Can he lead the Wolf Pack all the way to the very end and make it 2 from 2? Thomas Lowe joins on the front row of the AMs, and behind the man who was leading going into the last couple of corners until it went a bit wrong, Lenny Hansen starts 3rd in the AM class of wheelchair racing. Harry Mason joins in there, 5 seconds behind in the race finish, but not 5 seconds behind on this grid. He starts 16th for the Dogs, and then we'll see Mark Payes, the man who kept him close and company all the way through the sprint, starting 17th ahead of Tony Preston. We'll then have Matt Smith and Bjorn Egel-Calcett completing your top 20, and behind them it's going to be Matt Smith's teammate from Cracked Racing. It's going to be Bart Raven, pro driver, starting 21st, and it'll be Craig Todd alongside there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. We'll then do see 23rd there to Finley Secker, and well, the Lounge Racing driver has got a lot of work to do, as is Yuri Shura after those technical issues with the car in race number 1. We couldn't quite see what went wrong, but we know something was broken, and the only QET Racing driver knows he's got all the work to do in this one, as does the 2 drivers behind them. Starting 25th, it's Danny Morris, the privateer, and 26th from the grid after an early retirement from the race, only Community Racing's Aidan Howard. Well, not quite a retirement, but he retired to the pit lane and made his way back out to finish 5 laps down. But indeed, they'll all be set and ready to go once again, ladies and gentlemen, and they'll all be itching for another battle. But of course, they're going to have to scratch that itch quite nicely, because we've got 30 minutes of racing coming up. And well, it's an absolutely packed grid. 26 drivers have made the journey to Watkins Glen International, and as the field gets ready to set away, we're not too far away here from the formation lap, and with it, very shortly, the green flag racing start. So as the pace car starts to peel away, we can see that Andrew Pike jumping ahead of FC Lamb. He can get away with it initially, but of course it'll be FC Lamb who dictate when we do go green flag racing. Pike will not be able to pass him until FC Lamb has essentially gained speed on the start-finish straight and set the race to go green. So Pike's got to keep looking out his right-hand window. He's got to react to when the 64 goes, as they make the way through this very short formation lap into the last 2 quarters. And the very last quarter, where it's over to FC Lamb, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time this season, it's for him to take us away for 30 minutes of racing action. And as he builds up the speed, it is go, go, go already. FC Lamb waste no time in going green. Here we are then, ladies and gentlemen, down towards turn 1. As they all cover down, FC Lamb right now in the middle of a freeway fight. But it's going to be Sarah Dove diving up the inside. Pike tries to go around the outside. And the priority of Dove may just be able to move into the lead here if she's pushed along. But as they all come through, well, the whole field surviving the opening couple of quarters. But here they go, in towards the S's. And this is where it gets close. Oh, and it's gone very wrong towards the back. Who's been caught up in that? There's been at least 4 drivers caught up. Although I think some cars are still going. Yuri sure is one of them. Tony Preston, Craig Twardog. I think they've all been caught up there, and well, some big damage on some cars. We're going to replay that shortly, but meanwhile, as we do see the field making its way down towards the in-loop chicane, well, right now, the blimp camera there giving you an idea of the veracity of the field, but Andrew Pike is at the very front of it, and Sarah Dove and Cole Morby are side by side. Morby's had a good start as they come through and onwards. We got Cole going straight on. That's FC Lamb who's taking the tourist route. Oh, and that's getting a little bit tasty there between none other Martin Blankenstein and David Haynes, and in the end, Blankenstein's going to lose out there, but I think there's a bit of a story to that one, and we're coming out to turn number 5. And down towards 6 now. We can see that the field's spreading out, but James Stone Radford at the front of the AM class. But Harry Mason, he's had a brilliant start as number 17 try. He's on the back there of Stone Radford with Thomas Lowe just behind them. So Mason, I don't know what he's had between the 2 races. He's had half-time oranges. Well, they've been laced with something because right now he's absolutely spruced up as they make the way through to number 7. I'm very happy for Mason as he goes around the outside there, battling with his teammate. And the 2 dog drivers right now, well, somebody wants to be the alpha in the pack, and it wants to be Harry Mason by looks of things. But coming down towards lap number 2 then, it's Pike, Morby, Dove, Moss, O'Reilly. That's your top 5. Sharp is 6th. Head of Davidson, followed by Venzel, Nuttall and Haynes. That's your top 10. And then Blankenstein at best dressed in 11th place, ahead of FC Lamb, with Harry Mason being your AM leader, ahead of Lowe, Stone Radford, Raven, Secker, Hanson, Howard, and Peza. That is your top 20 as they make the way up the hill once again. But right now, Matt Smith and Bjorn Egel set on the back of the top 20 there. And right now, it's the top 22. That is all in long line formation. And right now, nobody's making a clear break at the moment. Everyone's trying to work together here and given the length of the race. If you lose a pack early on, you've got to do a lot of work to catch it. They learned that from race number 1, and now they'll know if they get it wrong in this one, there is no going back. 30 minutes to race there, you've got to be really tactical, and also you've got to try and manage those tyres a little bit, because the outside tyres, the left-hand side tyres of these cars will be lent on extremely aggressively. Particularly that front left is going to take all the way around Watkins Glen International, and they need to protect it as best as possible. We don't expect any pit stops, of course. We've got the fuel to get to the end of the race, unscheduled fuel capacity, and these tyres will last the whole race distance. It would be absolutely detrimental to come into the pit lane. Even if you've got a very heavily worn tyre, you need to keep it together. But meanwhile, Aidan Howard, we jump aboard with him in 19th place at the moment, and look at the do battle with Lady Hanson for 5th place in the AM class. Hanson's gone back a little bit. Howard, meanwhile, has come all the way through the field, and I wonder if he was able to dodge all the madness that played out through the S's on the open lap. We are going to get a replay of that soon, as we had a couple of drivers coming into the pit lane and have had their cars repaired. However, it definitely went wrong, as Howard right now looking up the inside, goes to the move there versus Hanson. Is he going to be able to get it done? And the answer is not quite. He's have to stay behind as he powers his way onwards. As he does, right now just staying in the draft. That's all he can do, but he'll have side by side here with none other than Mark Pez, who tries to get involved. And Pez squeezes his way to the inside of turn number 4 here. Can he keep a nose in? He's going to try to, at least for now. Power the way onwards, but you can see this fight is cost them the gap to Finley Secker, who now is at the best part of 1.2 seconds up the road in 4th place in AM, or in other words 17th place overall. 2 while they come in, and just behind you can see their Egel set also into the mix, as I think we've had a driver slight connectivity issue and they've jumped up and down the time tower. And meanwhile, we see Pez there taking very liberal use of the grass and the curb, somehow just avoiding the track limits police. Pez holding the 7th place. I'm amazed he even kept that car point in a straight line, but well done to Mark for that one. Meanwhile, coming back to the front of the field, here we go then. So Andrew Pike right now, he's at the front. He seems to establish some sort of control. I think right now he really is just simply leading this pack. And Cole Morby, I think he's trying to discipline everyone behind to say, let's all just calm down a little bit. We've got a long way to go, guys. We don't need to fight this early on, although everyone's itching to be towards the very front. But of course, remember, we haven't even completed a 6th for the race as of yet, let alone a whole third of it. But into that braking zone, and there's Tom Davidson. Looking up the inside in towards 90 right. He's not too pleased that he's currently running in what will be 4th or 5th of the class. So he wants to move further up as he does look up the inside of Dove there for 4th place. And William Minolta car now falls back a little bit initially. And you can see it's going to be Kieran O'Reilly. Hedges Betzel Davidson trying to give him a little bit of a nudge along here and saying to him, no, go on, I'm going to back you. I'm going to help you get past. But we can see there as well the fact that Kieran Sharp right now pushing his teammate Andrew Pike along. Pike's going to get into lead once again, even though Cole Morby was the better of the 2 out of 90 right. Well, he's going to be all the way on the inside here. They're going to put up a bit of a fight through the inner loop chicane, and in the end, Andrew Pike moves back into lead. But further back, Bart Raven, remember, he started all the way down in 21st place. He's up to 17th, battling here with Seka, and that will be for overall position only for 16th. Right now, your number 51 driver, who was in the AM class earlier in the season, promoted to pro. And right now, well, I think he'll be thinking to himself, if I was in AM, I'd have plenty of fighting to do. If I'm in pro, I've got plenty of fighting to do. He's spoiled for choice. That's always a good thing as a driver. He's not going to be bored out there, I can tell you that. But meanwhile, further back, you can see Lenny Hansen and Aidan Howard. They seem to have agreed not to fight each other now. And Hansen's actually starting to break away there from Howard. And Egil Kalsek is closed up instead. Back up the front of the field. And whilst we can see a driver go underneath our camera, that's a lap down car, and that's the car of Tony Preston. But meanwhile, whilst Andrew Pike's one wide at the front, it's then 3 by 3 coming in towards the opening quarter this time around. And well, you don't normally see that too often. Still, Saratov just holding that inside line. Again, making sure not to get involved too much. I think Dove here really playing a very smart race right now. She's very cognizant of the risks of all this fighting and does not want to get lured into it whatsoever. And while it's taking a lot of discipline for the 501 driver, but still a very disciplined approach there. It's going to reward her later on potentially. Here they come on towards what will be the run to the inlet again. Right now, just everyone chopping back and forth. But as they do, continue the switchbacks and forth, and Andrew Pike on the outside this time, and Kyle Morby. Oh, goodness me! And somebody gets it wrong. That's Kieran O'Reilly going around. Who's that with him? I believe that's Janos Wenzel. They've both had to come in together, but they've avoided the wall. Still get it back together. They'll be able to go racing, but they're going to lose that pack. They're going to lose practically everything they've earned. And well, suddenly there's Danny Morris catch up to the back of Janos Wenzel, so that might be a little bit of saving grace. If you can work with Morris, he might be able to catch up, but a bit of an incident there. It's a bit tragic for both drivers, and we'll have to see what exactly has caused that tragedy. As meanwhile, your top 4 go 2 by 2 now, going up through turn 6 into 7. And Andrew Pike still stapling this on. But speaking of incidents, we now take a look back at some of the big moments earlier in this race, including what exactly happened at the start with that instant through the S's. Now, this was the driver. Well, Yuri Shura being propelled to the wall there. We just go right into the thick of what happened. I think we're going to need to go a bit earlier than that to find out what exactly went wrong for him. Here we go with an earlier trip back in time. So we do look to the blimp camera here as they made the way on through. In fact, the blimp camera's a bit too far away. Can we get a closer camera? Yes, we can. Now we just need to see the perspective of Yuri Shura. So he was in a 5 wide, battling hard there with Lenny Hansen. He was going to compress here. Oh, goodness me. And, well, there's the explanation. So Craig Twardock got compressed around the front of Shura's car, got turned on Shura. I don't think there was any malice meant there. And Shura, unfortunately, got pinned in all of that. And, well, he got propelled to the wall. We need an alternative camera angle to see exactly who may have elbowed Shura to the wall. It's not 100% clear, as we did see a big move there from Bart Raven on the inside. Went all in. That made the 5 wide. Well, here we go then. So Shura and Hansen constantly elbowing each other. Twardock there. And in the end, I think, well, there was contact with Twardock across the front of Shura's car. That propelled what Hansen out was in the rear of his car, slid into the back of Shura's. And it just happened so quickly to flash. I think at the end, no driver's going to know exactly what went down. But meanwhile, this was FC Lamb, who was towards the very front of the field at the start, but got propelled back very quickly and then took a very liberal line here through the chicane. We lost him to the ether for a brief moment, and in the end went straight on, making sure not to collide into any of his rivals, but had to slow down immediately to give up all the time gained. So it went a bit wrong for him. Tony Preston was caught up in that incident for the S as well now that we're finding out a bit more information. But then we had this big incident on lap number 5 only months ago. This was Wenzel versus O'Reilly. And coming in towards the inner loop, they were 2 wide. Oh, and it was a hit to the wall there for Janos Wenzel, and that's what sent him all the way round. Now, who can we get on board with to show you there was an impact with the wall? Beyond that, I think we're going to get the perspective of David Haynes here as he came in. Now, watch Wenzel's car on the right of your picture, and what you're going to see is going to hit that wall, and it comes across there. It's not the best perspective. In fact, I think it'll be Bobby Moss's car that's going to see it better, and we are going to see it from Bobby Moss's perspective, and this was looking down at the front. So perfect view for Bobby Moss. Wenzel's directly in front. He's going to turn in too soon, hits the wall, goes straight to O'Reilly's car, and at that point, as we said earlier on, you hit that inside Armco barrier, you are going straight on at the chicane, you're not going around it, and you're going to collect anybody who's on the inside of it, and that's what happened there between the 2 of them. So drama, but understandably, both drivers, they'll try to pick up the pieces, but we also had this only once gone lap number 6, so this has been happening whilst we've been looking at replays, and this was Bart Raven battling side by side with Seka, and when in the end, Seka came down off the curb aggressively, and Raven collected with him, over into the barrier there, and drama for both drivers. And this was on board with Bart Raven. Well, in fact, I think we're getting on board with Raven. There's the on board with Seka. This is the better view, and takes a bit too much curb, and it just elbows the car out, and the Drive Lounge racing driver losing it there to the barrier. Very unfortunate, but back to your live race we come. And as we do, we're still more race to the Cup, of course, ladies and gentlemen. It's not over yet by any means. We've already had 10 minutes of racing. We've still got another 20 plus a final lap to go. And the reason why there, I definitely almost jumped out my chair. I thought that Pike and Davidson were both going into the wall with that speed. Well, to be fair, they're keeping us guessing as much as possible. But now that the field has spread a little bit, we have had those incidents. What it has done is caused the field to start to spread into some smaller packs, which you have your top three trying to get Jamie Nuttall. They don't want Nuttall being invited to the party. Although the cracked racing driver here, I think whether he's invited or not, he doesn't care. He's going to gate crash the party wherever possible. And Kieran Sharp and Sarah Dove following. Now Dove, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised really, he is just simply letting Sharp do all the hard work. She'll probably bump draft Sharp when needed on the straights, but otherwise she'll be very happy to let the Sim Racing Collective driver lead the way. Given the fact that Sharp right now one of the top 5 in the Pro Championship, and we do have that top 5 starting to break away, and they'll be hoping they can continue that break in order to be able to save for the rest of the season and end up in just their 5-way fight. To see as we do see a lap being put on Tony Preston there by some of the leaders. A bit further back, Harry Mason. Well, the Dogs driver here, he's really delivering a brilliant drive at the moment. He's been able to get ahead of FC Lamb, and they've also been able to put 7 tenths between themselves and his teammate of Gemstone Radford. So the Dogs trying to go for a 1-2 here, albeit right now I think the number 13 driver would like to move forward if he can, and he's got a 4.5 second gap to Lenny Hansen, who's got the problem, which is the fact that only a second behind there's Kieran O'Reilly fighting with Egil Calcett and also Peza and Lowe, and they're all coming in towards turn 1 right now, and these AM drivers are getting very feisty. In fact, that's Peza diving to the inside, looking for a move, and well, Calcett's going to give them the space, no doubt about it, but where will they go from there? There's a bit of a brush of the wall for Lenny Hansen, but he'll get away with that. That won't cost him any time. That's literally just a little bit of paint being stripped off the car. And we can just see behind Thomas Lowe right now, just playing the game once again. Or popcorn seat view, it's the best view in the house, just ride on and follow as he makes his way up towards what will be the inner loop. You can see, building up that speed, getting the double draft initially, now decides to invest in Peza and lifts off, does not make it a free wide, nor does he push Peza into the corner. Worried there about the risks of bump drafting him along. Peza clips the wall there, coming off the curb, and thankfully gets away with it that time, but that definitely was a brush with the barrier. And for Mark Peza, we can't afford to keep doing that. Otherwise, that's going to see the car in pieces. We have had an incident for Aidan Howard, and I do believe Bart Raven's been caught up even in a related incident or a separate one. They're both in the pit lane, they've had to tow, so we're going to get a replay of that in due order. Right now, we can see there that Thomas Lowe sitting behind Peza and Egil Calcett for full place at AM, and Lenny Hansen ahead of the group. The third place man in class, we're trying to use Kieran O'Reilly to bring him closer to the likes of James Stone Radford and Harry Mason, who are keen to make it a 1-2 for the Dogs at AM, and with it will be 11th and 12th place. Season best performances for both drivers there, but we will see what's to be. And as Hansen and O'Reilly continue the way onwards, well, we see Egil Calcett trying to go up the inside here. The Pro-Tiv right now looking for a move on Hansen. He's going to go for it there, trying to chase after what is the Light for Light livery car. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Egil Calcett and O'Reilly might be teammates in reality. Here we go up the hill. Remember, there's no teams championship in this series. This is a purely drivers championship series. So therefore, whilst you may quote unquote have teammates, you're not expected to be working with them unless it's all the way. Oh, hold up a second. Well, I'm going to completely forget what I'm talking about because Andrew Pike, how on earth does he end up rolling around there? That's not normal to see the car around like that, and by itself, that front left suspension has completely collapsed for Pike. That's going to have to tow to the pit line. I suspect that is not going anywhere fast. And for Andrew Pike, that's a shock to the system, and I don't know how on earth that's happened, ladies and gentlemen. But the good news is we are going to be able to find out, because we're going to take a look back at some of the big moments, starting off with what happened to Aidan Howard and Bart Raven first on lap number 9. Now this is Aidan Howard coming out to turn 1, took a lot of speed out the corner, just went straight to the barrier there. And for Aidan Howard, a bit too much speed on the other side of the circuit as well. It was all in pieces. And the same for Bart Raven, literally did what Aidan Howard did, just not as aggressively. He was in front there, so I think Aidan Howard figured I'll follow what Bart does, and sadly end up in pieces of both drivers. We then had this on lap number 10. So this was Jamie Nuttall chased after Andrew Pike. Pike really at the centre of all this. And I think the snake train there, they all got into a big bump draft. And unfortunately, all the cars were still coming off the S's. And as a result, the number 57 was turned around. So Andrew Pike, very unfortunate there to be sent on the round. And this is what it looked like on board from Jamie Nuttall's perspective. This was the front bump. In fact, we're going to get the dashboard here. So in the end, the cars all came over. And I think the tap to the rear of Pike from Davidson's car sent the car spin around, and Jamie Nuttall had to take what was kind of like reflex reactions there in order to be able to dodge all that. So well done to him for doing so. And I think all the drivers had to, but I think it was just a tap to the rear of Pike's car when it hadn't settled down. The steering wasn't perfectly straight from Davidson, and it just sent him around. Well, that's going to be a difficult one for the stewards to talk about there, because the theory will be, of course, that if you are the driver who taps the driver in front and that resulted in the spin, even if you meant no malice, if you meant to bump draft, normally 9 times out of 10, it's the driver who did the bump who is going to get the blame in that situation. Not that I'm blaming Tom Davidson, but that has happened there. As you do see the Sim Racing collective numbers in the track, giving that their faults to Davidson and saying it may have been the bump to the back of the bike from his car. And well, I think we'd agree with you there. It was a bit of a bump, and unfortunately, well, Davidson right now will race with a little bit of a cloud hanging over his head for the rest of this one. And I don't mean a rain cloud, but he'll definitely be having to try and remove all those negative emotions and faults before they start to pour down on him. And that's what he's able to do as a driver. A lot of these drivers, to be fair, they're able to get themselves back up and keep on going. All know each other very well for the most part, so therefore expect there's a lot of respect given and taken. And when things don't go wrong, they normally do talk about it. We do see Andrew Pyatt back at the front of this field now, and the irony being, however, here he is. He's now a lap down, unfortunately. So after it's all going well, it's all got a bit wrong. But speaking of things going wrong, we've had an incident for Lenny Hansen as well when he was running in third in the AM class. And well, now that accolade goes to Bjorn Egil Kalset, but he has got a 1.2 second gap over Thomas Lowe and pays as a further second back. So I think something's happened here to cause a bit of a spread. Meanwhile, Tony Preston now battling with Finlay Secker. And as they come down towards the inner loop chicane, we can see there Aidan Howard a bit further back, but Preston trying to go around the outside to inside. He'll get that on board, but of course the problem is the driver behind him is Kieran O'Reilly, and O'Reilly would like to get through here, so he's going to tuck up the inside of Secker and say to him, you kind of need to get out of my way for those blue flags. And in the end, I think Secker does not want to lose Preston right now and lose the pace there and the opportunity to battle for 8th place. In fact, they're going to go 3 wide coming out of the outer loop, and in the end Preston does not carry the speed. He backs off there, and Secker says, right, if you're going to back off of the blue flags, I'm going to get on the back of the man you're backing out for. But Preston says, hold up a second, I didn't let you do that. But he goes a little bit too hot there in turn 6, has the foot on the brakes, otherwise he would have gone straight through the side of Secker on the rear left quarter panel. And well, thankfully no contact between them. Good reactions there from Preston. I think in the heat of the mud he wanted that place back and then realised on that line you can't carry that much speed and be battling with somebody, otherwise you're going to send them round. So Secker does get that place. He had a very tactical call there from the number 9 driver to take the 8th place down. And now how much further could he go? Because of the fact, of course, they do have the best part of 27 seconds to the next car, and that is going to be the machinery of Lenny Hansen, as Tony Preston getting it all sorts of wrong coming out of turn 1, hit the barrier, and I think now Preston won't be able to stay with Secker for much longer as he'll gradually pull away with the momentum he's built. But meanwhile, we need to stop our momentum in live time and head back in time to what happened to Lenny Hansen. So, Andrew Pyatt let it all go wrong, of course, and this was Hansen at the time, fighting side by side with Kieran O'Reilly. In towards the inner loop they went. Oh, was there contact to Hansen's car there? If so, who made that contact is the big question. Let's take a look back from the onboard. Now, was that Mark Pazer behind him? I think that was. That's the all-black AM car. And in the end, into the chicane they went. Oh, and it was a tap to the rear there. Pazer coming in with more speed, and Hansen in the end for Wheelchair Racing going to the barrier. And just like that, it was all in pieces. And I think that car had to be taken to the pit lane. He didn't tow, but he definitely drove it into the pits. And Hansen just being tapped. And one innocent mistake there for Mark Pazer, but unfortunately will have big consequences both for Hansen in the race and potentially for Pazer in the stewards room after it. But meanwhile, we come back to your live pictures. 12 minutes and the final lap to go. And right now, Jamie Nuttall still leading, at least now, to Thames header Cole Morby, with Tom Davidson, Kieran Sharp and Sarah Dove and Bobby Moss all together. And it is none other than a top 6. And you have Andrew Pyatt latched onto the back of it, saying, hey, I'm part of this as well, although he's lapped down. But to be fair, if he can stay with it, we'll help him gain some time. But also, he just like to be a part of all the madness that's playing out. But Nuttall right now, definitely having some pressure here, as we do see that huge overspeed on the right there for Davidson. He's going to try and draft his way past the ball. In fact, that's Kieran Sharp going for it. My apologies, not Davidson. Similar liveries, but not the same driver. And well, in fact, Kieran Sharp, they go very tight on the inside of the chicane. And in the end, causes Cole Morby to have to go a little bit defensive. And right now, the privateer in the purple machine, the number 19, holding on to second. But Jamie Nuttall, well, he didn't quite take the win in race number 1. He came very close to it, but can he get it done this time? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, Davidson was the man to pip into the post in the sprint, but will we see Nuttall now make it a win in this one, and therefore potentially just try to push himself a bit further towards the top of the standings? It's all going to be found out in 11 minutes time or so. And Sarah Dove, of course, currently in 5th place. Can she hold on for what will be her first top 5 of the season? The 501 driver here, well, she's definitely in the right place to be able to do so. And all this fighting right now will only make sure she stays nice and close, nice and packed in the battle. But of course, at any moment it could all change. Her best result so far this season, well, of course, it's been none other than what has been the result in the sprint race earlier on. In fact, it was, I believe, a 7th place, which has matched. In fact, no, it was an 8th place there, so it hasn't quite matched the 7th she picked up last time out in the feature race at Adelaide. So therefore, a 5th would be a season best, a 6th would be a season best as well, and Dove doing everything right. But she wants that first top 5 of the season. She's working hard for it. right now making sure to stay right on the back of Davidson as they go through. You see there, fanning out the leaders once again as they come in towards the chicane, and Jamie Nuttall just simply declaring that he's not letting anyone go. He wants everyone else to fight behind him. Well, Kyle Morby definitely acting as a good rear gunner at the moment. I don't think that was his intended plan, but that's what he's doing. And it's all working out a trick. But whilst all this has been happening, there's been a bit more drama. Now, we have got Harry Mason still as your AM leader, but you may all be wondering where exactly is James Stone Radford in all this. Well, there he is in the background. He's dropped away, and right now, look who's closing rapidly. Here is Bjorn Egil-Kalset. He is only 1.7 seconds behind, and right now he's got to try and chase down Stone Radford, albeit do it in his own time. He has not got anybody to draft with, although he's bringing Thomas Lowe to the party with him, and that is definitely something we'll keep an eye on next. The AM lead battle and the battles in AM class have calmed down for a little bit, so we are going to stay towards the very front of the field, as we do see two wide here between second and third. Sharp on the inside, Morby on the out, as we do see their Sharp gives all the space to Morby to make sure he's not pushed out to the barrier too far. Here they go up the hill, and right now Sharp has to hold that lead position with Morby tucking it behind. At the back of the group in 7th place is David Haynes, who's found himself back onto it. He did fall away from this group after the big incident for Andrew Pike earlier on, but now thanks to Andrew Pike being a lap down, he's actually catching back up. And I think Andrew Pike here is trying to push Bobby Boss along. I think he's trying to work with his TSRC teammate to help out. He pushes him right into the thick of the fight, and suddenly Bobby Boss there squeezes ahead of Sarah Dove, so he moves up into 5th place for now. But I think the TSRC esports driver is going to be saying, I appreciate the push, Andrew, but not that much. Well, in the end, that push has definitely worked out in his favour there, even if he didn't expect it to be that big of a push. Well, here they come out of turn number 5, and on towards 6 and 7 they go. And right now, well, Andrew Pike could be a bit of a key holder here for a big result for one of these drivers. But in the rear of the pitch, you do see FC Lamb, with Martin Blake as driver and Harry Mason at the back. Well, the thing for Harry Mason at this point as your AM leader, when he has got the two pros in front of him, and then he does have a 4-second gap to James Stone Radford, he can theoretically afford here just to follow the two. So long as they don't fight each other too hard, he's not going to lose that much time in reality. He'll actually gain some relative time. As remember, Radford doesn't really have a toe to work with. You can see them in the rear of the picture in the silver and light blue, the Dogs machine. And then you do have Bjorn Egil-Kalset, who's very gradually closing on him. He is in a draft. These cars do pick up a slipstream off each other out to 2 seconds. It's a very small slipstream until you get within a second there. It becomes very pronounced, but that little draft is going to help him gain about a 10th or 2 on every straight, and he just pulls in that little bit closer, particularly when he makes it back through the S's here. That's where he's going to feel it. It will just help him slightly, but the slight improvements there, every little helps, as they say, and right now he'll be definitely feeling it that way. But meanwhile, we've seen a change of leader. Kieran Sharp has now taken over at the front ahead of Kyle Morby and Jamie Nuttall. So Nuttall's fallen back to 3rd, and Davidson still watched over behind. Now I suspect this is a tactical call from Nuttall to let the lead go for a brief moment. Perhaps he doesn't want to put too much pressure on himself. He wants to let somebody else lead, and therefore let them have the inconvenience to be in the car that's got to lead them all around. Well, single line formation again. Nobody wants to pick a fight at the moment, otherwise they'll risk bringing this second group into the mix, and well, of course it could bring all the field back together. And wouldn't that be a treat to suddenly see what could be a top 15 all fighting for the win? But now, right now, our top 7 are definitely being very selfish and keeping it all to themselves. Andrew Pike thinking he's latched onto it, and there he is at the back, but unfortunately not able to fight for position. With Jamie Nuttall back up the inside of Kyle Morby then, in towards turn 1, goes for it again, and Morby just lets the car roll to the outside, as we do see Sarah Dove there, letting it roll out wide as well. That's going to cost her 6th place. David Haynes is going to take that over. But I think Haynes right now, knowing that he can bring the pair of them back onto the back of Moss, and with that, onto the back of the top 4. Speaking of which, your top 4 now goes 2 by 2 as they come onto the stretch. And now it's going to all be about the bump draft once again. Nuttall on the inside there, being pushed along by Tom Davidson. And we've got Kieran Sharp getting a bit of a late push from Kyle Morby. And Bobby Moss here just sits behind them as we ride aboard the front bumper camera of the number 5. Oh, he gets it very close there, and it's the rear, and that's going to send Kyle Morby sideways. And in the end, well, Moss picked up a lot of speed, but Morby into the barrier, and another one falls from the pack. As the Queen song would say, another one bites the dust, but sadly for Kyle Morby, he won't be singing along to that. He'll be fuming at that contact, and Kyle Morby coming out of the in-loop chicane falls now to the wayside, as that's going to see a top 7 battle now become a top 6 battle instead. but Morby 1.6 seconds behind Harry Mason. Could he potentially catch up to that group and get some more valuable points here? Well, he'll be hoping that Blankenstein and FC Lamb are going to fight each other, and they're doing exactly that already. As Harry Mason watches this, he's probably thinking to himself, can you not fight, guys? I don't want to risk being caught up to by the rest of the Anfield. Because here's James Stone Radford, still a 1.3 second gap to Thomas Lowe, and Lowe has actually got ahead of Egil Kalset whilst all this has been going on. Interesting. So, for Thomas Lowe right now, is he turning on a late stringer pace, and can he potentially have a bit of assistance there from what would be Stone Radford in order to move, well, a bit of assistance from Egil Kalset, I should say, to try and move forward and catch up to the second place man. Well, we'll have to see what's going to happen. But as we do come back to the leaders once again, here they go onwards. We do see there, Emmett said the YouTube chat with regards to Bobby Ross potentially having a chance of a third place. But he's definitely attacking for it right now as he looks to go side by side with David Haynes. 5 minutes to go, and Bobby Ross right now has read the room, and he says, right, I've got to get my elbows out, albeit a little bit too aggressively perhaps there, as he does elbow David Haynes out a bit, and he picks up a slowdown as Haynes for the track limits, and iRacing doesn't discriminate when you cut track limits, whether you're pushed out there or whether you did it of your own volition. It just simply says, you've cut the course, you've got to give the time back. But he won't lose this group right now, and again, he'll tuck onto the back of Saradov, but I wonder if Moss will be thinking about that one afterwards and thinking, should I have elbowed him that much? Well, it's happened. He won't be able to think about it too much at the moment, but we are going to take a quick look back at what exactly happened to David Haynes. Well, this was David Haynes' only moments ago, of course, battling side by side with Moss, and in the end, I don't think there was actually contact between the two of them. I think Haynes there tried to go around the outside and carry too much speed and understeered wide. So, as a result, I take it back. So that camera angle suggests that Bobby Moss did not make any contact. But, meanwhile, there was definitely contact for Kyle Morby. Now, this is Morby making his way through at the chicane, and that was contact there with Bobby Moss, who tapped him on the rear, and unfortunately sent Morby to the barrier there. And at that point, I think Moss was literally a passenger in his own car. He committed to the corner. Morby got caught up behind the car sharp, and that's what led to the contact. But back to life we come. We won't be getting any more replays at this point because of the fact we are right in the final throes of this race. We don't want to lose any of the live action. But what has happened now is that Moss has lost the top three, 1 second away, and he'll be hoping they start to fight each other again. I think Nuttall right now will be praying, at least for the rest of this lap, that Davison and Sharp do not fight him. And the cracked racing driver would ideally like them just to simply go for a bit of a stalemate at the moment and then take them on to the final 2 laps of racing. We are going to get 22 laps in here based on the time we've got remaining. And right now, the final 2 laps after this one will definitely be the most important ones. Further back in the order, you can see Harry Mason ahead of Kieran O'Reilly and Cole Morby. And James Stone Radford now has only 8 tenths of a second gap to Bjorn Egil Kalset and Thomas Lowe. So we have got a 3-way fight for the final 2 spots of the AM podium. That's brewing up tonight, and well, it will be exploded onto our screens in due course. And Mark Pez in the rear of the picture, still 7 seconds behind, can't get involved. But back to the front we go then. Penultimate lap gets underway, and here's Tom Darrington looking up the inside. Says, right, it's time for me to go to move, JB. And what does Nuttall do here? Does he give him the space? He does for now. But as they come out of the corner, 3 wide onwards or so will be the full process here for Kieran Sharp. Does he go for it? Not quite certain at the moment. As Bobby Moss still keeping Dove and Haynes behind him. And you can see Andrew Pint latched on right now. He's purely spectator because he is a lap down car in what will be the green, blue and gold machine. Well, meanwhile, the leaders carried on as we have had a little bit of shuffling further back. I do believe David Haynes has been sent a bit further back. And in fact, as they make their way onwards, well, in fact, ignore me about David Haynes there. That's a bit of a misinformation on our timing tab because he's definitely still in place. But Harry Mason here right now, letting Blankenstein and O'Reilly go. He's the one who's dropping down the order, giving up the places. Oh, that's an instant further back, and I believe that was Finley Secker ended up in the barrier there, a lap down. We'll try and come to that later on, as beyond Egil Kalset has got ahead of Stone Radford. So that's a change of position for the second in the AM class, with Thomas Lowe behind. So fighting between them, as meanwhile your leaders then make the way through turn 6, and once that final quarter for this lap, and it will be as they come to the timing line. 1 more lap to go here today at Watkins Glen International with 1.5 minutes left on the clock. I don't think they're going to squeeze in any more laps. We will look to what will be the view as they make the way down. Do we get to see where the flag is waving there? Well, in fact, there's no flag waving. They are going to go 2 more laps, so we were wrong, and right now we are going to go 23 laps here. No white flag has been waved, and Tom Davidson therefore knows that he's got 2 more to do rather than 1. So therefore this is going to keep on his toes just that little bit longer as they head up the hill. And Kieran Sharp at this point push him along. But I think right now the 2 TSRC drivers try to work together for a brief moment to try and see if they can keep Nuttall at bay. No, Jamie Nuttall, you can see here peeling to the outside, and Sharp's got no time to react here, and it's going to be Nuttall gradually Comes past that double draft eventually working for him, but it is such a long run. And in the end, going on through. Well, right now, the battle side by side all the way through. Davison goes a little bit deep, has the inside into outer loop. That's going to keep it safe. But look, David Haynes, he's caught right back up to the lead group already. He's been a second. He's going to be with them going on to this last lap. And Bobby Osara Dove, they're going to be brought onto it. Meanwhile, battle for second place at AM. That is going to be Thomas Lowe going around the outside to inside there versus James Stone Radford. Radford's been sent all the way down now to fourth place in the AM class. So right now, Bjorn Calcet is trying to bolt away at the stable. Thomas Lowe would like to complete that podium if he can. And James Stone Radford being absolutely robbed here. And you would imagine that the 1-2 that the Dogs was fancying, well, right now, it's definitely not working out a trick at all. But meanwhile, back to the front we go. 10 seconds left. We are going on to one final lap. Davidson leading them for now, but Jamie Nuttall on the inside here. Too wide, in towards 90 right. It is the white flag waving. We are on the final lap of the day. And can Jamie Nuttall potentially take the win that he was denied in race number 1? Or will Tom Davidson be able to make it 2 out of 2 here today? Kieran Sharp also itching for a win as well. The fight is on, and David Haynes, Bobby Moss and Sarah Dove, they're only 6 tenths behind this group right now. You can see them all there. And Andrew Pike, the man who's 7th in this order, he's a lap down, but he wants to get involved. But 3 wide they go, but Kieran Sharp backs out there before he gets to turn number 4. Realising there's not enough space, but he can tuck into the toe instead as the cloud comes over here right now. So it's a bit darker, but as they come on towards that braking zone for the chicane, well, right now Kieran Sharp can't find a way to make it 3 wide. So he's going to help what will be Nuttall for a little bit. He'll push Nuttall forward. Jamie Nuttall takes the lead then, and Davison right now falls back into second place. And Sharp right now, he's going to be under pressure. David Haynes up the inside into outer loop. Haynes decides it's time to pull for the trigger. He's so close. He's going to put Sharp under pressure and force him to the inside in towards turn number 6. Runs out wide. Look at Bobby Moss as well. Try to look for a move on Haynes here, but I don't think it's going to work out as they make the way down towards turn 6. They've got a car in front of that's Lenny Hansen. He won't be brought into this, but he might be getting a very distant toe to Jamie Nuttall. But Nuttall right now makes his way through the penultimate corner. One more corner to go. Will we see a move from Davidson? I don't think so. I think Davidson's too far back now. He slides a little bit loose into the corner of a Tom Davidson. That could be a mistake that calls it. Over Jamie Nuttall as the checker flag waves. He's going to take the win in the feature race today. Just ahead of Tom Davidson. Kieran Sharp completes the podium. There'll be David Haynes and a Bobby Moss and Sarah Dove. And then we will have Kieran O'Reilly, Conrad, Martin Blankenstein and FC Lamb. And it'll be Cole Morby in amongst it all. And Harry Mason will bring on home the AM win. His first win of the season, 11th overall. Bjorn Calcet will hold up for the run-up spot in the AM class, 12th overall ahead of Thomas Lowe, with James Stone Radford coming on through, just missing out on the podium in the AM class. And indeed, the Dogs denied a double podium in this one. Jonas Wenzel comes home in 15th place ahead of Mark Peza. And then it will be Craig Twardop who very shortly comes to line as he makes his way through that final quarter. And well, frustrating race this one for him. Indeed, it's been a very challenging day for the 200 driver, but still, he's kept his head down and carried on, but no big points coming his way. He'll take 17th place, and then we will shortly have Matt Smith come out to the final quarter. And for him, this is going to be 6th place in the AM class, and definitely on a list of drivers who've fallen down the order in the AM class today. But he's been able to make his way up and pick up some very valuable points. And your last lead lap finisher in AM will be Lenny Hansen, who didn't quite end up a lap down. He was almost put a lap down, but he's been able to stay on the lead lap, and that's going to see him finish in 19th place as he makes his way on through. But goodness me, what a pair of races it's been. And glad to hear you've been enjoying it. TSRC numbers, we'd love to have you tuning in all the way through. And well, I can tell you one thing right now, if the smile on your face is as big as the smile on my face, we've definitely had an awesome day of racing to enjoy. But of course, when our drivers made the way to the finish line, we did have that lead battle, but we need to talk about the battle in the second pack here that we didn't get to see to the line, and this was the Kieran O'Reilly, Blankenstein, Lamb, Morby, Mason battle. And it was O'Reilly in 7th place who seemed to hold on in the end, but look at this, a fight right towards the end. Remember, Cole Morby in the purple car's got all damage over the front of it, and Blankenstein managed to get to the outside, coming out of turn 6 to get the inside line in towards turn 7, and that's what enabled him to hold on there, and he picked up a huge overspeed coming out the final quarter versus O'Reilly, who brushed the wall, but it wasn't enough, and FC Lamb and Cole Morby completes that top 10, and Harry Mason with a very happy AM win, his first of the season. And Bjorn Calcet in, what a drive from him to come through to second in AM, ahead of Thomas Lowe and James Stone Radford. Fought his way upwards and got the job done, no doubt about it. But with that, ladies and gents, we make our way back to your live circuit side pictures, and let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And well, the sun comes out again for a brief moment, and as it does, it brightens up the screen in time for those feature race results. These subject to stewards' inquiries. And as we can see in our 30 minute. Second race of the day here in round number 4 of the Sim Racing Collective in collaboration with the oNiD Community Racing Group, the GR Cup Series. So 2026, it was at Watkins Glen, a win for Jamie Nuttall in the second race of the day by 5/10 of a second for Cracked Racing ahead of the Sim Racing Collective esports pair of Tom Dowson and Kieran Sharp. They were separated by 21 thousandths at the finish line, and David Haynes was a further 10th for drift, taking 4th place off of Bobby Moss. Sarah Dove did take her best result of the season on 6th place, but not her first top 5, sadly, so the Minolta Racing Priority will have to wait just that little bit longer to see if she can take a top 5 some point this season, but she was ahead of Kieran O'Reilly, who was the best part there of a whole 10 seconds back. It's crazy to think your top 6 finished a second apart in total, and it was 10 seconds back to an incredibly close battle between Kieran O'Reilly, Martin Blankensteiner, FC Lamb and Cole Morby for the rest of the Pro Top 10, and that is how they finished together, separated by only 4/10 of a second at the finish line. What a close fight. Harry Mason was at the back of that group, but to be fair, wherever he finished in it, it didn't matter overall because he took the AM win and he did an absolutely dominant drive, with Dog Stryer nailing it right and breaking away for the rest of the field and leaving the ball behind, with Bjorn Egil Kalset fighting his way upwards to take second place in the AM class after a difficult start to the day in race number 1. When it's not about how you start the day, it's about how you finish it, and he finished it on a high. The priority was just ahead of Thomas Lowe at the finish line, who finished 3/10 behind him, and in the end it was James Stone Radford who missed out on the AM podium after spending so long in second place, but the pace slipped away from the Dogs driver, and sadly for him it was 4th place in the AM class, but still some big points coming his way. It was then a further what was a grand total of 8 seconds back to Janos Wenzel, who a late incident cost him dear, but he was able to stay ahead of Mark Paiser for that 15th place. And then we did see Craig Twardock ahead of Matt Smith, with Lenny Hansen completing lead that finishing order in 19th for wheelchair racing. It was a lap down for Andrew Pike after his big altercation coming out of the S's early on the race, but stayed with the lead pack a lap down all the way through the race afterwards. And we did see outside the top 20, indeed finishing a lap down as well. It was Finley Secker ahead of Tony Preston. And then we did see 8 laps down there for Danny Morris, and non-finishes for Aidan Howard, Bart Raven and Yuri Schurer. But ladies and gentlemen, what a pair of races we've had today, and all those results subject to any Stewards inquiries, but those are going to be well off in the future. But meanwhile, let's stay in the present, and whilst our racing map comes to a close, our broadcast does not, because we'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time for our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers, and I'm sure they've got plenty to say about some incredible pack-based racing here today at Watkins Glen International. So don't go anywhere, you won't miss the interviews that are coming up very soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And we're going to start off by speaking to a man who's taken his first and winner season today. And it's a special day for him as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. But we'll explain shortly, because joining me now is none other than Harry Mason. Harry, good evening to you. And what a round for yourself today. A fourth in the sprint and your first win of the season in the feature race. I mean, it's the perfect day, isn't it?
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Thanks for having me in. Yeah, absolutely fantastic at the track that I put a lot of practice in the week, but hadn't really found any pace until tonight, and we got on the track, and I think I got a little bit fortunate with the feature race win, that there was a bit of a pile up behind. I've just seen on the replay. So fortune, but you know, fortune favours the brave, and all that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a special day for yourself as well, because I do believe it's your birthday today.
It is. Big old 31 today. Now chugging onto that big 4-0.
Well, I'll get there before you. I'm 33, so you're not doing too bad at 31, I can tell you that. But still, a great way to crown off your birthday. And winding it all the way back to the beginning, qualifying, we saw you take 21st overall, 7th in class. Were you particularly worried about qualifying, or do you think, you know what, I've just got to get a lap together, because it's all going to be about who I fight with in the race, really?
Yeah, I think from all the preliminary practices, it looked like it was a bit of a stream fest. You know, getting in behind the car. So I knew as long as I wasn't right at the back, I'd have a chance to stick with the pack. And I think in the first heat race, I was on pace with the lead pack, but I think a few incidents early on in the race just meant I was a little bit out of touch of the slipstream and couldn't really regain.
Well, it's a bit unfortunate indeed. The draft's so powerful, and once you start to lose it, obviously falling back a little bit, but still finishing fourth in the sprint race and the podium not too far away in the end. So did that perhaps make you think, you know what, given nobody in the AM class is starting inside that top 10, nobody's benefited from the reverse grid today, that perhaps a podium could be possible in the feature?
Yeah, I think that was a big thing. Definitely not having one of the AMs sort of in an unassailable spot up at the front of the field. A bit like what I missed obviously last round, but the round before when Bart was still in AM, he was so far ahead it was sort of, you know, unachievable to get back up to unless he had an incident. So yeah, it was a massive confidence boost to know that we were all starting on even pegging at the back.
Well, a huge confidence boost, no doubt about it. And then after that, of course, we went green flag racing and we saw you take the lead quite early on. I mean, just explain that open lap, because you just went from what was fourth in class to sunny into lead and just running away.
Yeah, so I think I'd had a pretty poor start, to be honest, and had a car come up on my outside, and knew that it was going to be a case of going 3 or 4 wide into turn 1, but obviously with the NASCAR layout meant we could run as wide as we possibly wanted. And I think I just got a bit fortunate. I was in the middle, but I checked up, made sure that I didn't tap any of the cars to the left or the right. And obviously then getting on the power out the corner just meant I could pull away a little bit in the slipstream. And like I said, fortunate that, well, I say unfortunate for the cars in the incident, but fortunate for me that it gave me about 1.5 seconds gap by the time I got down to the bus stop, which, you know, then I just sort of built on that throughout the race.
Now, obviously, with the incident, it spread the field, like you said, but also what we did get to see was, for a time at least, yourself and your teammate James Stone Radford leading 1-2 in the AM class. I mean, were you both thinking at this point, hold on, we can make this a 1-2?
Yeah, I think when we were sat on the grid, we were talking in our Discord chat about how there were 5 dogs in the top 6. So as a team, we've done really well today. I think, I don't know how they actually finished in the end. I haven't had a chance to debrief with them, but I know it was a good one for the whole team, and hopefully we can keep that going through the rest of the season and look strong as a team come towards the end.
Now, just off the back of that, and perhaps it's not fair to me to ask yourself, but I don't know if you know, what happened to James? Because midway through the race, you started to break away, and James fell backwards in the end and got caught up in a fight for 2nd through to 4th.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was just a trickery of my eyes, because I run in VR, so everything's a bit visceral sometimes, but it looked like someone had come across the bus stop chicane without taking it, and then when they come back on track, had sort of given him a nudge and given him some side panel damage. It might be one of the pro class coming back through. It was hard to tell. But yeah, he then was sort of complaining of damage throughout the race and just sort of seemed to drop back and didn't have the straight line speed even in the tow. But yeah, he'll have a debrief and find out what was wrong with the car, I'm sure.
Oh, very unfortunate there, but still, whilst it didn't quite go right for him, it definitely went right for yourself. And I can imagine towards the end of the race, with the pros in front of you, was your mind sort of going for the likes of, say, Kieran O'Reilly, also FC Lamb and Cole Morby when he was relegated back to you? Can you guys not fight each other too much? Because I've got a gap, and I kind of don't want the likes of Egil Kalstedt and Thomas Lowe catching up.
Yeah, so I sort of made a concerted effort as soon as O'Reilly got back up to my bumper. I was like, I've got to let him go and let him get past these guys ahead because he was quicker than they were as well. I think coming to the last few laps, I probably could have, if I wanted to finish a few places higher, I probably could have stuck some moves on. But I think in terms of looking at the championship, it's better to finish leader of the AM class and forego a few overall places than it is to take a knock, hit a wall and throw away what would be my first feature win with TSRC.
Oh, 100%. I think very smart logic there, and nobody can begrudge you for that. So as a result, your first win on the board, plus also fourth place, a big haul of points. And when you came into this round in what was, I do believe, just outside the top 3, but now, provisionally, it moves you into third in the championship. You're 16 points behind championship leader Thomas Lowe, 2 rounds to go. Do you believe you can win it?
Yeah, go on. Why not? I mean, anything's possible, isn't it? I think if I can put in a performance like I've done today, then I don't see why not.
Brilliant. I'm loving the confidence. And in terms of where we are next time, of course, next time out, we're in the Garden of England. We head to Brands Hatch. What can we expect from you there?
Yeah, okay, I know Brands fairly well. Maybe not so much in the GR. But once I get down to some practice during the week, I'm sure I'll be fit and ready to go for a few laps around Brands.
Oh, well, we look forward to seeing you take on the challenge of Brands Hatch next time out. But just before I do let you go, Harry, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Just again, big up the dogs. Possibly my mum might be watching tonight, so big up my mother if she is watching. If not, I'm sure she'll watch the replay and she'll hear it then. But yeah, thank you again. Yeah, thank you so much for streaming it for us again and commentating over it. It's always a fantastic watch later on this evening. I can't wait to sit down and watch it.
Oh, fantastic, Harry. Well, if your mum is tuning, hello to your mum, and glad to have her tune in. Indeed, like I say, big up the dogs. It's been great to see you leading the pack today, and we look forward to plenty more at Brands Hatch in a week's time. But until then, happy birthday to you, and have a lovely rest of your evening.
Fantastic. You too, mate. See you later.
So here and there from Harry and Mason, ladies and gentlemen. And what an absolutely brilliant opportunity there to celebrate his birthday. And he'd celebrate it with a class win. But talking about the fact, qualifying was always going to be irrelevant. For the simple reason that he didn't really need to worry about where he started. It was about getting into the packs and getting into the fights. And so, when he went into the sprint race, talked about the fact he was able to make the progress, but unfortunately the field had splintered too much for him to be able to go any higher than 4th place. But with the fact all the Anfield was outside the top 10, he had more confidence that he could chase down a podium, if not the win, because nobody in the AM class was going to benefit from the reversal. And we saw that straight away. Open lap, dodged a bit of the instant that played out in front of him and was able to make his way forward and very quickly got into the lead. And after that, just worked with the pros in front and gradually dropped his rivals. So unfortunately, dropping his teammate James Stone Radford in the process, who we do believe picked up some damage that we didn't quite catch on camera. And that damage in the end just forced him backwards into the clutch of the battle for second. But for Harry Mason today, he was untouched in the feature race, and with a big haul of points, will third down the championship provisionally. We've got 2 rounds to go. He believes he might be able to chase it down, and at Brands Hatch, we look forward to seeing him try his utmost to close the gap to Thomas Lowe. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got another interview or 2 to come, so we're going to step away for a brief moment, and we'll be right back with our second interviewee. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to our second interview of the day. We go to the pro class, and he hasn't been on the grid until this round. It's Andrew Pike. Andrew, a good evening to you, and what a fun day you've had, I'd like to say, although the feature race might have put a bit of a dampener on it, although you had the popcorn seat view for the rest of the race after it went a bit wrong. But for the most part, I think you've had some fun tonight.
Yeah, it's been all right, and I'm sure it was entertaining to watch, at least. Even with not considering the outrageous dump and run that I received, I think overall that was pretty good. Yeah.
Well, a good day of racing. I mean, it's great to see you out there giving it your all in the Poundland livery machine. And let's talk a little bit about qualifying firstly. 7th overall, a very tight qualifying field, but much like when we caught up with Harry Mason only months ago, I get the theme was you weren't really worried about qualifying because, like everyone knows, at Watkins Glen, it's not about where you start, it's which pack you're fighting in the race.
Yeah, exactly that. And I didn't turn up until about 2 minutes before qualifying, so it was just a question of, I knew it was the NASCAR limits, so don't hit the wall and see where you end up. As you say, you pick a group to try and fight with, and it either goes well or it doesn't. I got shuffled backwards a couple of times in the first one, but I mean, for that race to go the way it did, and I only saw one car get turned, I think, in and around where we were. That was really impressive from everybody that we could run. I think it's 5 wide into T1, wasn't it?
Oh, it was.
Unbelievable that everybody got through that, but it's testament to the quality of everyone and the decision making, the respect between everybody. It was, yeah, really, really good. I didn't mind where I finished in either of them, purely because the racing was so good.
Oh, it did absolutely brilliant racing, like you say. And just a curiosity question, with regards to these very wide track limits, you can run very close to all. We've seen some drivers run all the way out there at some points. Others have decided to take quite tight lines. I mean, what's the actual benefit? Is it that you do carry more speed, or is it just you give yourself more room for the next straight?
Yeah, I mean, you probably, as far as I'm concerned, if you're in clear air and you can take whatever line you want, then you're going to go for the wider line because you're carrying more speed. Any tight line that I used would have been where I'd pinched the attacking car to the inside and then looked to duck underneath them, particularly out of T1. That's the only time I could really see any benefit to pulling a bit tighter there, or if after the chicane into the hairpin there, if I found myself a little bit having to check the car up to get to the apex, then I'd pull the car back tighter, defensively. But I think the best route was to just carry as much speed as you could and be as brave as you could, and try and stay in somebody's toe. And once you lost the toe, I think you were out of it, which was why I behaved the way I did once I came back out the pit in the second one.
Oh, indeed. And we talked a little bit about the first race, that brilliant fighting, and a 9th place for yourself in the end in a top 12 that's so tight together. And it all started off so well in the feature race as well. And then, unfortunately, it looked so a bit of elbows came out through the S's, and you were the unfortunate recipient of a brush with the wall.
Yeah, it was a brush with the wall, yeah. So I've filled out, we have grievance forms for reporting other team members, which I've filled out and I'll submit in a moment. The minimum I expect is a letter of apology from one of his parents. Otherwise, I'm not going to speak to him again for that outrageous dump and run. He was in the voice chat saying, "I'm going to get rid of you in a minute. I'm going to get rid of you in a minute," and then he got rid of me. But it was good fun.
Well, that's the TSRC esports team at its finest, then having fun, but also having, like you say, a bit of a dump and run moment. Although I can see in the YouTube chat that actually a poll has been set up. I won't say by whom, but asking the question, was it his own fault for Andrew Pike? And they've all said yes. We've got 3 votes. It's 100%. Everyone thinks it was your own fault.
I can only assume there that Sharpie's got 3 YouTube accounts then, for that to have received those 3 votes. But now, jokes aside, I mean, everybody was having a good time. I knew I was going to get pushed at some point, and we'd all discussed amongst ourselves that eventually there was no way we were going to get away with that for half an hour. Somebody was going to cop it, and sadly it was me, but there was no malice in it. Tom's pushing me over the peak of a hill. I probably didn't hold the car quite straight enough, and once he's unloaded one corner of the car, there's no coming back. It is what it is. It was all good fun. We are all still friends.
Oh, 100%. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And whilst you may have been put down, Lamp, I mean, as you mentioned, the fact that then you got to sit behind the top 7 for the rest of the race and really act as the guy who was just helping, making sure anyone who fell to the back of it would be pushed forward. I think you've even had quite a bit of gratitude from a couple of drivers who fell to the back of that pack. You must have loved it, thinking to yourself, it could all go wrong at any moment. I can't get involved, but I definitely get the front of house view to it all.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was very conscious that I absolutely could not afford to take anybody out or cause any level of crash. But rather than quit out or just sit in the pits, once I'd realised that I would come out in amongst that pack, I gave Nuttall a tow for a bit until I needed to get out of his way, and then I just said to the boys, I'm going to tack onto the back of this queue, and whoever's there is getting pushed back into it. purely for entertainment value. I don't think anybody that was getting a shove minded. As you say, a couple of people have piped up and said thanks. It made the race what it was. It probably cost Bobby a position or two, but I mean, it's unusual for Bobby not to have been it anyway, isn't it? So he's probably still thankful regardless. Yeah, that was really good fun. I just tried to be as respectfully as possible involved in that, but whilst understanding that I'm very much blue flagged.
Well, it was absolutely brilliant the way you balanced that act in the end. And of course, whilst it wasn't the best end to the day in the feature race, some valuable points, 2 more rounds to go. Next up, we're at Brands Hatch. Hopefully we get to see you there, and if so, what's the plan?
I mean, I don't think I'll make Brands. I signed up to this. I mean, I signed up to everything we run and take part where I can, but I was hoping to take part in all of it because I knew it'd be fun. But I mean, I'll see what I can do. I might be able to make it next Monday, but the chances are slim. But I think I will likely make the final round, which will be the Circuit of the Americas with the same wonky track limits that we've had tonight. So if I can at least make sure I put an appearance in for that one and give Tom somebody to aim at, then I suppose that's better than nothing, isn't it?
Oh, true. We'd love to see it, the Circuit of the Americas in the fly, because whilst you may not be able to take the championship, I think you'd definitely have to take some points off our championship contenders. But as I do get ready to let you go, I do have to ask, as always, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
I'd like to thank Tom for lap 10 and everybody that managed to avoid me, and yourself for entertaining, having a chat with someone who's been a menace for the best part of an hour. So yeah, thanks very much.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Andrew. We'll leave you to it. Congratulations on your performance today. We'll miss seeing you at Brands Hatch. We look forward to seeing you at the Circuit of the Americas. And until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Yeah, I'll go back. Thank you very much. Cheers.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, for a very happy and always talkative Andrew Pike. And we're all in the fun spirit, of course, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to what happened. Very unfortunately, the contact between himself and teammate Tom Davidson, and we all went a little bit wrong. But still, at the end of the day, having lots of fun out there and got himself right into the thick of it and was very happy, in his own words, to make himself a bit of a nuisance all the way through. Also talking out there, the fact that you do want to try and run as wide as possible in these corners with the very lenient and liberal track limits. But the idea being, of course, that in clear air, you want to do that, but when you are in amongst the pack of drivers, then the positioning does change a little bit. It's very sad that we won't get to see him at Brands Hatch, because I definitely think it's a circuit that he'll be very familiar and very confident at. We'll get to see him at the Circuit of the Americas, all being well, and I suspect there the TSRC esports driver will do what he does best, and that is take everybody on and go all in or nothing. It's what he's very good at doing, and we look forward to seeing our number 57 driver back in the near future. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that's all we've got time for interview-wise today. We are just double-checking at the moment. I don't think we've got anybody else who is available to interview, and it's understandable, given the fact that I think a lot of our drivers are absolutely exhausted from all the battling action today. So therefore, we're going to call it there for our interviews, but let's just give you a recap of who we've spoken to. And as we can see, we've had 2 interviews this evening. One in the AM class from Harry Mason, the Dogs driver, celebrating his 31st birthday and celebrating in style with a 4th place in race number 1 and the win in the AM class, his first win of the season in race number 2, and the confidence is growing in his charge for the AM Championship as he now sits 14 points behind the championship leader of Thomas Lowe provisionally until the stewarding verdicts are done. Meanwhile, in the pro class, we got to speak to Andrew Pike for a brief moment, and we got to hear the story from the Sim Racing Collective esports driver who hasn't been on the grid since the start, but made his debut on the grid today, and absolutely loved every moment of it, even if it went a bit wrong early on the feature race, but got himself stuck right back into it right at the very end. So big thank yous then for joining me in the interview room. It's been a blast to hear from both of them, and we look forward to hearing from plenty more of our drivers as the season goes on after each and every round, with only 2 more rounds to go. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and if you're sat there right now thinking about potentially getting on the grid at the Sim Racing Collective or the oNiD racing community, well, the great news is, if you do want to find out more about either community, you can simply go to their official websites. Firstly, of course, here at the Sim Racing Collective, our website is at www.tsrc.club, and it is available on screen now. It's a very easy to navigate website. Right at the centre is our official Discord, a link to it at least, and you jump in there, you're going to be right in the beating heart of the community and talking to the likes of fellow drivers, also the staff members and the admin members. It's the easiest place to go to if you want all the information you need to get on the grid. On the left-hand side of our website, we've got all of our socials, including the SimGrid page, our Twitter page, our Instagram, our YouTube, you name it, it's listed. And at the bottom, our partners and affiliates. And at the top right, if you want to know a little bit more about the latest news at the Sim Racing Collective, or indeed our rules and regulations, all you got to do is go to those pages there. Indeed, you couldn't find an easier one-stop shop for all information for the Sim Racing Collective. But of course, we also do have the oNiD Racing website. A huge shout out, as always, to oNiD Community Racing for giving us the opportunity to run this series in collaboration with them. We couldn't do it without them. And their website, if you want to know a little bit more about oNiD Community Racing, is at www.onidracing.com. And that website appearing on that screen here. And as you can see, another simple and easy to navigate website. You can join the community using the Join Now button there, but of course you've got all the links at the top in terms of how you go racing with the community, how you can support the community, partners, the rule book, the instant guide, and the driver ratings. Indeed, it is a very easy website to access, and all the information is there. And there's never been a better time to become part of the oNiD Racing community, nor is there for the Sim Racing Collective community. But ladies and gentlemen, with that, we'd like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates as well, who do of course include Tam Livery, the SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, and ABRUZZI Simulation of Motorsport. And we'd also like to give a shout out to the Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at the Sim Racing Collective as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But with that, we now turn our attention to our next round, our penultimate round of the season. And well, we make way to the United Kingdom in round number 5, and on Monday, the 4th of May 2026, it will be to the amphitheatre of the United Kingdom, the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, that will see our drivers take on a circuit that is narrow, full of fast and flowing corners, and over 2.3 miles of length. We'll see our drivers go dueling like none other when it comes to a circuit which will be absolutely uncompromising in its track limits. You're either on the road or you're on the grass, and somebody's going to get their elbows out if they want to take the task of taking victory in the Pro and Am classes. But in terms of our championships coming out of today provisionally, well, we have seen in the Pro class firstly, what has been a turnaround where Jamie Nuttall holds on to a slender 5-point lead over Tom Davidson, who are the first and second today, and a second and first for the leader. Well, both of them are right now trying to run away, but Kyle Morby is not letting them go, only a further 2 points behind. Meanwhile, in the AM class, it is currently Thomas Lowe, who carves his way out front with a double podium today, and knowing that right now everyone else has got to give chase, and the leading pursuers 11 and 14 points behind respectively are Finley Secker and Harry Mason. But will it remain that way come the end of round number 5? Well, the only way to find out is by tuning in next time. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuning in to the Sim Racing Collective with oNiD Community Racing GR Cup for 2026. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.